Nope, nothing.
I heard you. You heard it?
Thank you, because I need it. I need it.
Okay. Good evening, Kershaw County.
There's your glasses.
Everyone here in attendance with us and everyone watching online. Do we have Mr. Tomlinson on Zoom? No? Okay. All right. This is the regularly scheduled meeting for July 25th, 2023, and I call this meeting to order. And let the record show Mr. Brazel and Mr. Tomlinson are absent. We'll start off tonight with the invocation given by Mr. Sammy Tucker Jr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we all stand, please? Once again, let us bow our heads and open our hearts, please. God, Father Almighty, we come to you as humbly as we know how this evening, thanking you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us this week and this past weekend and all through our lives. Lord, Father, we'll always be so cautious and kind and gracious to give you all the credit and all the honor. We thank you now for these minds that are up here that are doing the business for Kershaw County citizens, that we have a sound mind and that we make good, deliberate decisions, that we do what is in best interest for our citizens that elect us to these positions. Now, Lord Father, when we leave this place right here, we ask that we never leave your presence. Give us traveling mercies to our various destinations. Bless our men and women who protect us, that gives us these liberties and these freedoms that you allow us to have. We pray this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker.
You're welcome, Madam Chair.
All right, adoption of tonight's agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda, Madam Chair.
Okay, motion to adopt the agenda by Mr. Tucker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cato. Any discussions or questions on tonight's agenda? I have one comment. Under new business, the applicants and the vacancies, there will be no vote.
Okay.
Also, item 15, executive session, we will need one tonight. So when we get there, I will ask for one. Okay, all those in favor of adopting this agenda indicate by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. The agenda is adopted. Next item is public comments. Thank you, Mr. DeBose. There are 13 citizens signed up for public comments tonight. And Ryan, do you have the timer ready? Please. Thank you. The first citizen is Carol Green. Hi, Miss Carol. Make sure you move that microphone and speak into it so we can pick up your voice.
That way it goes. Oh, there you go. Okay. My name is Carol Green, and a year ago I moved here, a little over a year ago, I moved to Ridgeway Road, and we were living peacefully at 2681 Ridgeway Road, and then we got this message that the zoning planning committee was going to rezone our area for a Dollar General. And it is right next door to our property. And in an email I sent to all of you, I explained the reasons why we did not want a Dollar General right next door. It's just, for us, we are old, we're in our 80s, and we need our quietness and our privacy. And we don't feel like a Dollar General next door to us would serve the community as well, you know, because it's just too noisy. It would be noisy, big trucks going in all the time, cars, people, lights, and all that. And we just don't need that. And I would like to ask if any of you would like to have a Dollar General next to your house, right next door. Okay, well, we are opposing it, and we are hoping that you do not decide to zone this area for a Dollar General. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Green. The next speaker is Tim McCormick. Hi, Tim.
Madam Chair and council members, representing the developer in this project for the Dollar General on 2689 Ridgeway Road. I believe that we've answered most all the concerning questions. I do have a handout, if you will allow. We budgeted for a fence. I know Councilman Tucker brought this up last time we were here. Normally it's a county requirement, so we budget that, especially when we're going next to residential. And so these photos are from Sumter County, a store that we've already built. In fact, there are two different one store in the Dizelle community. And so I have, if someone could hand these to the council.
Yes, sir. Mr. Templer.
These are hot off the press, so I apologize I didn't get to staple them. I've been on the road all day. And so one more thing that I would like to add is that we also have a restriction clause in our contract with the sellers. So when you have remaining land left over, which I've already spoken before, that we didn't need 6 acres. That was a recommendation from the planning department. All we needed was 2 acres. That's it. But we restrict the remaining contiguous parcel, this remaining with the sellers. And so you can't have an adult bookstore, you can't have a Family Dollar next to you, you can't have the nuisance. So it's going to be on the deed, and it's going to follow that deed like a tick on a dog, to where you can't have a methadone clinic and things of that nature that sometimes we're the nuisance. That's why we build fences. And a lot of times, you know, Dollar General doesn't want a Family Dollar right next to them, and they don't want a methadone clinic or anything like that next to them as well. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick. All right, Mr. Tim Taylor, you're scratched off. Okay, just want to make sure. Right, Mr. Tom Webb III.
I'm going to be beating a dead horse again. I hope that's not against some kind of animal control ordinance. I think that we are the animals that are going to be controlled. Us people from the boondocks are going to be controlled by people who like to wear suits and ties. I hate to see too much control, because if you're being bothered by animals that belong to a neighbor or something, you can go to court, you can sue them for it. That's the American way, rather than to have more laws that we'll all become entangled in, whittling away at our little bit of freedom that we've got left. But I've been on a shingles vacation. That's the reason I haven't been here. I had a bad case of shingles. I got my eye. It was really bad for 2.5 months. Of course, it's so much better now, still a little irritated. I'm sure hell could be worse, but maybe not much. And I'm sure there are people out there who would say Tom Webb is so suspicious of any vaccine that might have messenger RNA in it that he wouldn't get a shingle shot, and so he got shingles. Yang. Well, but I'll tell you this, I'd rather take my chances with shingles than with a medical profession that pushes a messenger RNA experiment on the whole world so the elite can use their most modern chemistry in search of a fountain of youth. It's not a new search. Ponce de Leon lost his leg in Florida to an alligator, searching for the fountain of youth. Hitler had his Joseph Mengele doing terrible experiments on prisoners. Part of what they were looking for was a way to find an extension of life, a fountain of youth. The Japanese were doing the same thing. No telling what the Chinese are doing. So it's a fountain of youth for the elite, but it would be a fountain of death for the rest of us. Because if people's lives extended, then the planet's going to fill up all that more with people. And the people who are the elite, they think that we're just the rats in their house. We're the useless eaters that need to be taken away. They're working on it. I've collected about 13 stories around here that indicate messenger RNA COVID vax could be responsible for strokes, heart problems, brain clots, people dying in their sleep. The word is out. There was great variation in the potency of the COVID shots and boosters. It was a great and dangerous experiment, and there's no good reason to trust any of its promoters ever again, including government. Enough of that. About solar farms, a friend of mine wanted me to say something about it. He thinks that that county council would have a real good idea where the 2 solar farms are going, and he wants to know. And I phrase it this way: don't you think the people in the area need to know? If you don't trust the people, how can we trust you? And about the ordinance that was passed about 2 years ago, I guess, explaining what you could and cannot have on your own property, solar collectors for electricity or solar collectors for heat. It stated that you couldn't have more than 2 solar panels on the ground. You could put them on your house, and there was concern that there might be reflection that would bother people. You don't think that a solar panel up on a house where people can see it would be more of a reflective problem than something sitting on the ground in your backyard? You couldn't have more than 2 in a series of either things that produce electricity or produce heat from the sun for your house. You might want to put one on the east, one on the south, one on the west, so that you'd have kind of all-day coverage of electricity and heat. But that's against the law because of this ordinance that was passed a couple of years ago. Very poorly done, very poorly done. I admonish you to do something about it, because it says you can't have more than 2 panels in a series on the ground, or it's considered more than just simply a residential or farm type thing. It's commercial. It never did describe how big the panels would be. That size, could you put 2 of them? I bought some panels from the Chinese, unfortunately, from Harbor Freight. I think it was about $100, and 100-watt panels. And if I put more than 2 of those in front of my house, I'm breaking the law. It's atrocious. It's kind of a European sort of thing to do, little by little, whittle away at our ability to produce electricity for ourselves. And the whole thing, I think, behind the solar farms is to get us caught on electricity from some source we don't have control of, and all the gasoline and kerosene and propane will go away, no resilience left.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Right, the next speaker is Jeff Maddox. Hi, Jeff.
Let's see if I can get this thing up where I can talk. Good evening. How are y'all? I'm sorry I missed your last meeting. I want to talk about the greater good. Who is this fellow? And why does he get to take from me to build all kinds of stuff and claim that he's going to fix the roads but never fixes the roads? And it's all for the greater good. Every time I look and everything, I can't find the greater good, people. I see county council, and I see councils over the years, and they pass these laws and all, and they say it's for the greater good, and these ordinances restricting all kinds of building and everything, and it's for the greater good. And then years later, they say, oh, great day, that wasn't for the greater good, but now we're going to do what is good for the greater good, whatever that means. I don't know who this fellow is. I don't know what gives him the right to rob me and all these people to pay for whatever the greater good wants. I thought we were better than that. I thought we were founded on the ideas of individualism and not collectivism, not for the greater good. And so now we justify the means for the goal. In other words, now we say it's moral for a group of people to get together and scribble down on a piece of paper that we can rob the people for the greater good because we're going to fix the roads, or we're going to put up street lights, or we're going to restrict private property, or we're going to do something. We might even go into the sewer business. But it's for the greater good. So what we're doing is we're using an immoral act of theft by proclamation to then do something good. Is that not poisoned fruit? Is that fruit from a poisoned tree? I mean, I can't get anybody to answer how is it possible for people that don't have a right to steal to get together enough people to make that right and call it taxation, or call it a fee, or call it a fine. I've been struggling with this for the last 15 years, and I can't get anybody to answer me what is the justification for theft? Is this for the greater good or not? You know, you look at 247 years when we just birthed the nation, and all the government was very small, very small. But they proclamated that they had the right to tax. Now, of course, right then it was just imports. It's just going to be imports. And then slowly they taxed this, and slowly they taxed that. And it's for the greater good. It's for your protection. And each and every step, we misstep. We take away the individual. We take away, and now it's the greater good. And the means justify the ends, because we want this, because we got to restrict growth, even though 20 years ago we wanted growth. We're meddling in the affairs that we should be looking at free market solutions and not these solutions that require force. And I think that's why we were trying to limit government, to limit that force. I think we all understand that, but it's gotten overwhelming now. I don't know exactly what we got to do about it, but we need to start thinking about how do we get government out of it and get the individual and their personal responsibility elevated. Anyway, sorry I missed last week. Maybe I'll miss the next week, but thank you guys. Think about what I said, please.
Thank you, Mr. Maddox. The next speaker is Shannon Mines.
Good evening, y'all. Live down the street from the proposed lot of land that's getting rezoned for the Dollar General. Past 2 weeks, I went around within about a half to 3/4 of a mile, and I collected a petition. I tried to email that all to y'all today. I hope y'all got it. A lot of folks in the very close vicinity of this piece of land do not want to see this Dollar General going in. They all like how quiet and how rural the Salt Pond area is. If folks want to have a nice, convenient store, you know, right down the street from them that they can walk to, I challenge you to move into Lugoff, move into Camden, move into Ridgeway, move into Elgin. Leave Salt Pond alone. It's beautiful and wonderful the way it is, and I hope y'all listen to these 40, 50 voices here. On top of that, you know, what's the point of even having zoning rules and laws if we're not going to abide by this stuff? This piece of property has property right next to it, nothing but residential houses. Places across the street, nothing but residential houses. So why are we going to cherry pick this one piece of property here? I mean, let's just ban or do away with zoning laws and rules if we're not going to abide by that sort of stuff. So hopefully you'll think about it and consider that. I appreciate it. Thank you all for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Mines, and thank you for your service. The next speaker is Janice Mesa. Hi, Janet.
My name is Janice Mesa, and I live at 37 Indian Mound on Ridgeway Road, approximately 200 yards from the proposed Dollar General site. Okay. I support the Dollar General being built, okay? And I understand that there's a lot of concern among the people about if you put a Dollar General there, well, it's going to be...
Ms. Mesa, I'm so sorry. Can you put the microphone closer?
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
Okay. I understand that there's great concern amongst the people of the community about, well, if you put a Dollar General here, it's going to increase the crime, the traffic, the noise, and the litter. Well, I can honestly tell you, I realize also that several families have moved for the rural country life. And I, for one, love the rural country life, okay? I was born and raised in Kershaw County, lived there all my life, okay? In the mid-1960s, I started school. When I went to the end of the road, the dirt road to, we called Highway 34 at the time, you might see 1 or 2 cars go down the road. That's rural, okay? And then when I was a teenager, I would walk down the Highway 34, 10 o'clock at night. This is in the 70s. You might pass 2 cars, okay? And I would be going to a little country store that was on the corner. But this is no longer the case anymore. This isn't rural country that I grew up in. Now, there's between 40 to 50 logging trucks barreling down the highway. And when I say barreling, I mean barreling. I can't even check my mailbox getting blowed off the road. Okay. Then there's cars, motorcycles, pickups, traffic coming off I-77 in Fairfield, cutting through 34 to get to I-20 in Lugoff, and vice versa. I-20 coming off of Lugoff, cutting through 34 to get on 77. All right, and I know this is traffic has been going on for years. The building's been going on for years. This community is not what it was 40 years ago. Okay, and I'm aware that anytime you put a new business like that, crime seems to go up, whatever. Well, crime's been going up in the Salt Pond community for the past 20 plus years. People going in yards and stealing. Drugs has run rampant there. And I don't know about the new people that's moved in up there and live long, but it is nothing like it was before. But I feel like a Dollar General will increase the police force. I feel like they'll do better patrolling if they get there. If the trash becomes a problem there, that's what code enforcement is for Kershaw County and calling the Dollar General corporate headquarters. Okay. I'm also aware that yes, that having it Dollar General will be a huge convenience for us, the elderly people. I have an uncle that lives there that's elderly. My father is elderly. He has cancer. When he goes or they go, it'll be so much easier for them to go to the Dollar General. And like I say, I don't feel like it's going to increase crime any more than already what's going on up there. And I feel like a police presence will be more patrolling and will be more on site. So I support the Dollar General. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mesa. The next speaker is Mark Taylor. You have a submission? What do you mean? I'm sorry, sir. Can you explain?
Well, I didn't know that my time to speak would come later when we just
No, sir, I don't have you on the agenda. Which item?
First reading, F.
Okay, yes, sir. When we get to F, I'll invite you up. No problem. Thank you. No, it's his. All right, the next speaker is David Dabney. Hi, David.
How are y'all? Good to see you guys again. I haven't been here in a couple months, but I've been an advocate on social media, following what's been going on and so forth. I'm here to just speak on a couple things. I can't come all the time. I got family life and I work, and I try to take care of the things I need to do and prioritize what I need to do. But today I'm obviously here as a builder and a realtor, and I'm very interested in the zoning, rezoning, and the talks of impact fees and things like that I've heard in the last several meetings. I wanted to put my 2 cents in and just say the impact fees, that's not going to be your answer. Builders that are building on have 4 or 5 houses going on 1 acre, a $2,000, $3,000 impact fee, they don't care about that. They're just going to pass that on down to the end user, as most people would. So what you're going to get is you're going to have an inflation. And we talk about inflation at food stores and grocery stores and how hard it is to buy groceries and things like that. Now it's just going to cause the same thing in your real estate. And it's going to affect a lot of different people, me, of course, as well. So I just kind of wanted to let you know that I'm very interested in that, and I wanted to put my 2 cents in for the impact fees. Secondly, the last time I was here, very hot topic, it's kind of dissipated a little bit, was the Woodward Park Sports Complex. Notice I didn't say travel baseball facility or baseball park. And we asked for transparency. I heard a council member last meeting being transparent, wanted to be transparent, wanted to have transparency on that. And Sigmund Freud was a famous mind guy. And there's a Freudism out there that if you say things over and over again, all of a sudden it starts to become true and people start to believe that. So when we talk about the Woodward Park Sports Complex, it's not a baseball facility. It's a sports complex. And I'd like to be transparent in that. I would like transparency in that when people are talking about it. To try to stop putting a negative spin on it, that it's just a travel baseball facility. We spoke, I did, and gave an example of how that park could be used a couple times a year after talking with people who hold tournaments to help an economic impact of the community and help support the park. I wasn't an advocate. If it's a travel baseball facility, that's a bad idea because it's not going to work. Okay, but talking with Shane Duncan, he had planned on using it. Shane's the director at the recreation department. He'd planned on using it for recreational facilities. We also gave an example of how soccer and football and soccer, or football and soccer and basketball, or they could have those tournaments out there as well. And I was talking about like 2 weekends out of the 52 in a year. So we're not taking up a whole lot of time there. But also transparency in that. There was also talks of bigwigs in Camden building on Larry Doby. And I hadn't heard any more about that. And obviously, being a builder and being in real estate, I'd kind of like to know maybe who my competition is and what kind of property is being sold out there, but I hadn't heard anything on that lately. And with that being said, I've got an idea for you guys. It's very tongue-in-cheek. If this is a travel baseball facility, we need to make some amendments on what you're going to put out there. We don't need the picnic shelters, the walking tracks, the playground, the disc golf, the soccer or the football fields out there. Because in travel baseball, we don't need that, right? And if we're going to make it a travel baseball facility, Let's get away with the portable mounds. Let's put permanent mounds out there, and let's make it what it is. And again, I say that tongue in cheek because that's what I hear as I sit and listen to county council meetings. It's directed towards one thing. And the Freudianism is travel baseball park, travel baseball park, travel baseball park, baseball park, baseball park. Say it over and over again, guess what it becomes? It becomes a habit. People start talking that way. And if that's the case, let's take all those things out. Let's tell everybody to go to Sumter or Florence or Richland County, participate in those recreational activities over there, and we can save a whole bunch of money here and not have to come up with the 6 million or the 20 million or whatever the number is here now. So I thank you for this time, and I appreciate you guys have a whole lot of other things to talk about and issues to discuss. So I'm just going to back down and I'm going to sit and listen to the zoning things is what I'm mainly here for. So,
Thank you, Mr. Dabney.
thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
just a point of order right quickly, and we may need some clarification here. The gentleman said he was taking his name off the public speaking, was going to speak before his first reading of his ordinance on. I think that's not what we normally do.
So when we get to it, I'll read in his ordinance, and if we get into discussion, I will ask him.
Then you're going to ask
come up.
everybody who does that on first reading to let everybody.
Yeah, if
start
they're
talking?
here, I do.
You follow what I'm saying, Mr. Tucker?
Yes, sir, but
Yes.
he can be part of the discussion. I don't think he's going to be up here all night, but
No, I don't care about that, but I just want to make sure that we're consistent. You know,
I consistently ask people with rezoning if they're in the audience to come to the microphone and answer our questions.
thank
it's
you.
okay. Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is Irving Branham. Hi, Irving.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, council members. Once again, my name is Irvin Branham. I've been here several times now. I live at 324 Rapid Run in Camden, South Carolina. I'm here to recap the reasons that we feel that the property at 2689 Ridgeway Road should be rezoned from RD2 to B2. My brother and I have owned this property at 2689 Ridgeway Road for the last 33 years. It's been in our family for the last 125 years. We believe that the Salt Pond community for years has needed a grocery store. The BG Market is a full-line grocery store with fresh meats and produce. We believe that this will meet the needs of the community. This would eliminate many elderly and retired folks on fixed incomes from having to drive 20 miles to get to a grocery store, or even just to go there to buy something like bread or milk when it runs out. We have had over 100 people in the area to sign a petition in favor of a Dollar General store in the area, and we didn't even go very far. Could have probably gotten many more. This would be a $2 million investment in this area, and it would bring in over $20,000 a year in revenue to Kershaw County. As I have stated before, my brother and I believe that you should be good stewards with what God has blessed you with. We also believe that you should try to be a good neighbor to your community. That is the reason that we have never tried to sell any of this land in the last 33 years that it's been in our name. The DG Market sounded to us like it made sense, that it would be great for our community, and that we would be acting as a good neighbor there. I'm asking once again for all those from the Salt Pond community that are here tonight that are in favor of having the DG Market in that place, please stand. This is just a few of the people that actually live right around the Indian Mound Road area and just outside from it. We're asking you, the county council, to vote in favor tonight of changing 2689 Ridgeway Road from RD2 to B2, and that would allow my brother and me to do what we want to do with our land. And that it would also give us opportunity to have that DG market to serve the people of this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Branham. The next speaker is Marshall Branham. Hi, Marshall.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, County Council members. My name is Marshall Branham, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing from me. As stated in the previous County Council meetings, my brother and I have owned the property at 2689 Ridgeway Road for 33 years. It was deeded to us by our dad. He told us to do with the property as we pleased. It has been passed down through generations, starting with my great-grandfather. It is only 2% of the property once owned by our ancestors. We have never developed any of that land for any purpose or ever considered selling any of it until we approached to have a Dollar General built. Over the past few years, I have here letters from people wanting to buy our property. And the folks that live right next door to it, they don't want this. They don't want it. I promise you, they don't want it. They would rather see, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself, they would rather see a DG market than what we could have done with this property. But we are taking the community, all the things that would affect the community, we're looking at that, and the DG market is the best thing for them. As I stated in the last county council meeting, the undeveloped nature of the property has attracted unwanted trespassers that have been trashing our property that the folks may not be aware of. And having a DG market located here will improve the community and will put a stop to this. As a reminder, I sent each of you a letter 3 weeks ago detailing a number of facts about the DG market that is proposed for our property. I also addressed some ridiculous speculations, mistruths, and misunderstandings that a few opponents had previously stated. I trust that the letter discounted those issues, so I will not rehash those except for one item in my letter. And let me read from that letter. I said, I would not be surprised if one of the vocal components of the DG market attempts to gather signatures as evidence that the community does not want a Dollar General. If one is successful in getting some signatures, it would be my belief that it was sold on misconceptions, untruths, and speculations. I would remind you that my brother and I personally met with over 100 residents in the community that would be affected by the DG market. We received an overwhelming 95% support wanting for their community, understanding what it would mean to them. Many of them ask, how quickly can it be built? The Dollar General would not be right next door to any residents. The lady that spoke earlier, their residence is approximately 500 feet from the road frontage. The Dollar General is going to be on the road frontage. And the property all around it is already zoned as B2, including the property across the street that was referenced earlier tonight. Due to the fact that my dad grew up in this community, my brother and I have an allegiance to this community and the residents living there today. It's there for the residents that's been there for a long time, and it's something they've needed for a long time. Based upon the overwhelming support of the community wanting a DG market, we are fully convinced that using our land for this purpose would receive my dad's full support. We're asking you tonight that you support the wishes of the community with a unanimous approval to rezone our property to B2 so that this project can move forward. We thank you in advance for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Branham.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, the next speaker is Carl Branham. Hi, Carl.
My name's Carl Branham, and I don't live 300 miles, you know. I live 300 yards from there. But anyhow, I found out me and you's probably going to be on television tonight. You hear anything about that?
Mr. Branham, rotate that microphone down a little bit. There you go.
You hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Anyhow, I'm the one that's on a fixed income, and my brother is too, and I do live about close to 300 yards from the Dollar General they're going to put in. And that would help us so much. For gas, groceries, anything you buy, Dollar General is going to be cheaper than anywhere else you can get it. But that's about what I got to say. People need to think about the ones that's on the fixed incomes, because that's all they go get. So anyhow, I appreciate it if we could get that passed. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Branham. The next speaker is Paul White.
Hi. First of all, my condolences to you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if this is the right time or not. I'm not for or against anything except myself tonight. So I want everyone to lighten up. I'm not here to complain. There's some positions on the airport commission. Is it okay just to say a little about myself at this point in time, or should I wait?
Yes, sir. It's your 5 minutes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I wouldn't be here without our airport. That sounds like a weird statement, but I hope it got your attention. The airport was built in 1929, and my father was stationed at the airport 13 years later as an Army Air Corps flight instructor, where he met my mom and took his one and only job with Hawaiian Airlines in Hawaii, where I was born and raised. But I spent all my summers growing up here, and I've been a part-time resident here since 2008 and moved here full-time a year and a half ago. So this is my home, and I didn't know there was any openings, and I wanted to continue the legacy that my father was involved with the fly-ins, and he was behind bringing a lot of them to the airport, and he passed away in 2009, and I would like to be part of that legacy. Through his influence, aviation has also been in my blood. I worked for Boeing for a number of years in Seattle, helped build 747, 757, 767s, and was just going to go ahead on my own, regardless of the position, and help promote fly-ins. My background is marketing and history, and it'd be an honor to continue his legacy and to be involved with the airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. All right, there's one more speaker. Is Miss Vicky Moniz here? Hi, Vicky.
Okay, good evening. I'm here tonight to request once again for our county to put on the brakes and to see how far and fast we have fallen. I've had to face hard truths in the past few years in my life and make changes. It's not a pleasant experience, but it's a must and a blessing from God in the end. I pray that each of you will do the same. You are not in your positions by coincidence. God has placed you there to do His will, and this is your test. We must clean up our own house, and that begins in our Republican Party, the party that is overwhelmingly represented by our council. I'm going to cut to the chase. The election in 2020 was not legally implemented according to our state and federal constitution. Our state legislators did not pass new legislation to qualify legally the voting procedures that were used for the 2020 selection. Pandemic protocols do not override established voting law. Therefore, it was illegal from the beginning. Truth is simple. Confusion comes from the devil. Yet in May of 2021, the new selected Republican legislators took the steps to pass that legislation and solidify the illegal voting procedure carried out in 2020 for the 2020 primary and beyond. This was the second illegal selection. In my opinion, our country experienced a soft coup in 2020. That would mean that every sitting politician is participating and enabling this coup, either knowingly or unknowingly. But ignorance of the law is no excuse. We can no longer allow a two-tier justice system in this country, one for citizens and one for elected officials, and the American people see it every day. I challenge each of you to examine the things that I have presented to you. There is a simple solution to correct our wrongs, and if you, our leaders, would simply do what's right and correct the illegal and treasonous actions that have taken place in our country since November 3rd of 2020. President Trump is our rightful leader. I ask you, the selected leaders with the power, to step up and do what's right and what's legal. We cannot turn a blind eye to one law and then carry on. We, the people, have one vote each, and we hold the sanctity of that vote in high regard. That honor and duty has been stolen from us by our rogue government. Don't be a part of it any longer. Do the right thing. Be a part of the solution, not the lies. It's time to right the ship, and we are our brother's keepers. God bless and guide you, each one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moniz. That concludes public comments for tonight. Thank you for everyone that signed up and spoke. All right, we're up to item number 6, approval of the Tuesday, July 11th regular meeting minutes.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Okay, Mr. Tucker makes a motion to approve as submitted. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Cato. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes,
If
sir.
I may, Madam Chair. At the last meeting, I think I just need some clarification, and I think it should be done publicly.
Okay.
We had an email sent in by a gentleman, and he sent it to you, and I think you had read it out loud in the public comment area. I don't think the email was read in its completion. Part of it was left out, maybe due to time. I don't know why, but bottom line is I was going over our rules, and it says rules to council public comments by electronic equipment as rules to council comments for public hearings by electronic equipment are attached to Appendix 3. But if you go to Appendix 3, it says nothing about reading an email as part of, from this council as part of a public comment. What I would suggest is that if we're going to do that, that each council member gets a copy of it. And if we're going to do that, we need to make it a part of our rules. And if we're going to do that, we need to complete the entire email, and it needs to be timed. My honest opinion, Madam Chair, you read the email. I think you were trying to do the right thing by giving everybody their voice, but I just think we need to look at these factors before we do it again. And I'd like some clarification. If you want to comment on that, I'll be glad to hear it.
Okay. When I received the email, the citizen asked me to read the email. So I called Mr. DeBose and asked if I could read an email. And he said I could as the chair of this meeting. So I chose to read it. I timed myself because Ryan didn't start the timer. So I used that clock up there. And when I thought it came to 5 minutes, I moved on.
Okay, what I'm going to submit is that we put that in our rules.
Okay,
So
is that anything to do with the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes, it does, because in the minutes of the last meeting,
Would you like to change the minutes?
no, I don't want to change that. I just want to make sure that we have clarification on why it was done the way it was done, and that it needs to be put in our rules if we're going to do it. And I respect your clarification on that. I just think that if we're going to do it, we really need to read the entire email in its entirety.
Not if it's longer than 5 minutes.
Well, I'm just telling you my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
I think, I think we need to I think we just need to make it a rule so that we'll have an understanding as to what's going to happen. And I think every council member should have a copy of that if it's going to be read off in the public comments.
Okay, there is a copy of it in the minutes.
What I'll do, I'll get with Mr. Templer, the county attorney or whatever, and we'll work something up and maybe put something on the agenda for council to look at as far as creating a rule that will kind of keep us on a consistent basis. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your time.
You're welcome. Any comments particular to the meeting minutes? Okay, all those in favor of approving these minutes indicate by raising your hand. All right, the vote is unanimous. These minutes are approved. All right, item number 7, discussions. The first discussion for tonight is animal control ordinance. This was placed on the agenda by Councilman Schumake. So, Mr. Schumake, you have the floor.
Sure, I will be very, very brief. This and the next issue. I'm simply flagging there will be no vote. I'm not asking for a vote. I've had a couple of different meetings with some constituents. They have expressed to me just some concerns about sort of overpopulation of dogs, particularly animals in the county. And so I am just now beginning the process of just looking at our animal control ordinance. Maybe it's where it needs to be, maybe it's not. I just wanted to flag for my fellow council members that I was doing that.
I'm sorry. Brent just texted. I think he's trying to call in. He's in.
Mr. Tomlinson, can you hear us?
Hey, good evening, guys. Can y'all hear me?
Hey, welcome to the meeting.
Hey, sorry I was late. I got caught up on the Cooper River in Charleston doing an event. So go ahead. I'm be listening.
Mr. Tomlinson, if you have your agenda in front of you, we're on number 7A, animal control ordinances. And Hannah, please indicate that he's in the meeting now. Thank you.
I apologize, Derek.
No. I wish Ryan would have said it because Miss Hannah needs to record him in as present.
Yeah, this is great. So, no worries. So again, I'm not, obviously everyone's free to discuss, but I'm not necessarily saying that there needs to be a change or a fix, but I've had some folks ask me to look at that. And so I was just letting you all know that my plan is to talk to some of those folks, look at that, and I may or may not come to you with something, but it is something that has been brought to my attention, and rather than just start meeting with people, I wanted to announce it here publicly so that anybody that's listening or watching that has an opinion or a thought on things that could be done different, or maybe nothing needs to be done at all, they could just reach out, and I was just going to put something together for my fellow council members. I will not put any ordinance on the agenda without having discussed it with my fellow council members, just because, again, I'm just now in the fact-finding stage. So that's all that I had on that.
Thank you, Mr. Schumake. Any other comments?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
For a little bit of history, I was involved in 1983 on creating the leash law for the city of Camden, also writing the public nuisance law that we have for the county of Kershaw. I've been involved in every amendment that's been made to that over the past 15, 20 years. I've also been very instrumental in the Judy's law that we have on books. Everything that we've ever went to control any population is going to be by spay neuter. You're not going to do it by making ordinances on the book. When Mr. Schumake notified me of this, I got an email handed to me that was sent in by a member of the Humane Society. I think it's pure nonsense. Don't tell me how I got to build a doghouse with a floor. Don't tell me if it's 85 degrees out there that I got to have my dog under a certain shade tree. Don't tell me if it's 45 degrees that I need to have my dog put over here. Listen, folks, our animal control, we have a good, solid public nuisance ordinance on the books, and it's not being enforced. We have an ID collar in the county that you have to have with your name and address and telephone number. In the city, they used to require a tag. We did not do that in the county because we found out after 300 people showed up because we were going to make them register their animals. listen, nobody loves animals any more than myself. And I think when we talk about things like sewer and the jail, we got some other things that really need addressing. And I just think that trying to put more bureaucracy on the table with increasing our animal control ordinance is just, at this point in time, a waste of time. Because as I said, we're not enforcing what we have now. That's no pun intended against staff. They just don't have the manpower to do it. So why are we going to write more laws, change more laws, get extremely restrict and telling you exactly what you got to do if you have an animal? We're having enough problems right now working with the animal shelter on accepting our animals. I'm hoping that's been resolved. But I don't know who put that together, but it was about 5 pages in red. It wasn't put in the agenda packet, but it was sent to us. And then this discussion was put on there. But I'm going to tell you guys now, as the most experienced person when it comes to animal laws in this county, bar none, even our attorney. I've got more experience in it than he does. And for us to be taking that up right now, I think is a waste of our staff's time. Let's work on what we can do we've got abandonment laws, we've got running at large laws, we got aggressive, vicious laws. You know, we have spay-neuter laws with Judy's law. We got some good stuff there, and I just don't think that it needs to be looked at or revised at this point in time, especially when we're not even enforcing half of it.
I would just like to, one brief comment if I can, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Shoemaker.
No, you can't give him floor, still have the floor. But that, and I welcome his comments, but bottom line is I just think it's a waste of our time right now. And I'm going to be very straight and blunt about it because, as I said, I've read through our current laws, and they're good laws, and it's solid laws. Let's quit pounding the public with all this bureaucracy. Anyway, thank you, Madam Chair.
I just want to add that when you pause in speaking, some of the other council members think you're done, and that's why they speak up and ask for the floor. Mr. Shoemaker, you have the floor.
May I comment on that?
Mr. Shoemaker has the floor.
Thanks for your kindness tonight.
I just wanted to say that obviously, again, I'm not proposing anything. I respect what Councilman Jones has to say, respect his experience. Admittedly, I don't have 20 years of experience with these animal ordinances, and I was at one point a pretty good prosecutor, and I understand laws pretty well, so I'd like to spend a little time so I can educate myself. I may come to the exact same conclusion as Councilman Jones, and if that's the case, that's the case. But when a bulk of constituents ask me to look at something, I'm not going to say no because someone else told me it was good.
And if I may.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
And the bottom line is, I'm not going to tell anybody no, but I'm going to tell them how I feel if they ask me to do something I don't agree with. And let me just say this, Mr. Shoemaker, you've been very upfront about this, and this is not any punt handed towards you or any member of this county council. I'm just stating my opinion from what I consider a professional basis. And I'm pausing, but I'm not through.
Yeah. Madam Chair, may I?
Well, can I finish?
comment?
Yes, sir, you can when I finish if she recognizes you. But anyway,
I'm sorry.
That's kind of where I'm at. And I hope that y'all take that in consideration, at a later date. Thank you.
Mr. Tomlinson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate Mr. Shoemaker for putting this on the agenda. I think looking at what we have as far as Humane Society with our current situation that we have going on, we do have a lot of dogs who run around the community, the county. We have ones who turned into wild dogs. The Humane Society is overrun. Overregulating is not the way to fix it, but I think having a conversation about it is the way to start it. We can't fix anything unless we have the conversation. So I just wanted to add that. I appreciate Mr. Shoemaker for putting this on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilman Jones, I'm surprised. You've been very vocal and transparent and always have asked for your liberties and freedoms to speak. And I'm a little offended that you're telling another council member not to put this on the agenda that may be a high priority in his district. We don't do that as colleagues. What may be important or urgent to you may not be important and urgent to me because we live in two different districts and we represent a different sector of the county. I want you also to make sure that you keep in mind you've got 5 junior council members up here who probably have not had any dialogue or discussion on the ordinance you're talking about. That doesn't make it a bad ordinance, but if anything, it would give them some insight, as Councilman Shoemate stated, where we can have some conversation and discussion and better understanding of it. And then if it needs a little tweaking or something, we can come to that conclusion if that's the case. But let's just be mindful that, we have different priorities and we have different issues because we represent different sectors of Kershaw County. Thank you, Madam Chair.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I represent the whole county, the same people you represent. I represent Ms. Tucker, and I am in no way, shape, or form. I thought I had a pleasant demeanor up here. And let me say this, I in no way intended to insinuate that he should not put anything on the agenda he wants to put on. I'm just telling him how I feel about it, and that I personally think it's a waste of time because we've got a solid ordinance right now that's not being enforced to its capacity. They don't have enough manpower to do it. And I wish I'd brought those sheets of paper with me, but I did, but it was like 5 sheets of paper with, I just couldn't read through it anymore so much. But no, please understand, I would never, ever try to insinuate that a council member not put something on the agenda. I'm just sorry that my demeanor doesn't suit you, but I'm not mad, I'm not upset, I'm just very direct and straightforward about how I feel. And that's how I feel with the experience that I have based on the many years of dealing with this. Thank you.
And I just want to clarify for the citizens out there, the document that's being referenced, Miss Wendy Satterwhite, she did a lot of research with some surrounding counties, and she pulled together what she thought was the best of all the counties and submitted it to us for a review, and it's been sent to all of council. And I do want to thank her for doing that. She cares very deeply, and she's just trying to improve the process a little bit. I think we found out from the budget cycle that the animal control department does need to be beefed up and does need an increase in personnel. So I think we'll all take that into consideration when we go over the ordinance. I have no problem reviewing it.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, and Mr. Tucker, for those kind words. Let me just say that I have no problem in anybody wanting to review them. I just thought I would give you some insight on my position on it, where that could really help y'all understand the right way to go. And I've had people contact me about it as well, and it's usually been members of the Humane Society. And I worked with the Humane Society for 30 years, and I think the world of each and every one of them. I don't agree with some of their policies. Nobody loves an animal more than I do. You don't believe it? Ask my cat and dog. They'll tell you. But anyway, thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to discussion B. Mr. Cato, Mr. Tucker, anything on the animal control?
Nothing.
Okay, we're going to move on to litter control ordinance, and Mr. Shoemake, you have the floor.
Same thing. I've had a number of people reach out to me, and I've told those people, same with the animals, that we had a budget cycle to get through. Obviously, we finished that last month, so I'm turning my attention to these issues, the 2 issues, several of the issues I hear a lot about, obviously growth being the number one, which we'll talk about later. But litter's a big one. I know that we need more people on the streets, and that's something we're gonna have to address as budget cycles come. So I'm not blind to the enforcement. But one issue, the one specific issue I wanted to bring up here that I would like to explore as well, again, no vote tonight. The fine in Kershaw County under this local ordinances is only $25 for littering. And I'll be honest with you, my proposal would be so high that I'd have to compromise to whatever you guys would be okay with. I think litter is awful, and I would have no trouble with excommunicating people from the county who routinely litter. But we can't do that under the law, as I understand it. But I would like to explore increasing that fine. I think the state maximum fine is $2,500. There's also been issues about fines being imposed. So for example, someone gets a litter ticket, they get some community service. We can mandate mandatory fines in our ordinances. And again, I'm not proposing anything specific, but I'm going to talk to our county attorney. I'm going to put together something that would beef up our enforcement, because if our law enforcement knows that they get can generate revenue that will help their department, help the county, then they're more likely to pull over. We can't be asking the sheriff, hey, pull over litter violators for $25 a pop. But if we can do, say, $3,000 a pop, then maybe that becomes something the whole county can get behind. So I'd like to talk to the sheriff, to code enforcement, and I'm going to put something together as well. But I just wanted to flag that for you all.
Thank you. Comments?
If I may.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I want to be very careful about talking about creating an ordinance to generate revenue. That's something we don't want to do, but I do think we need to look at our little laws. But I don't think we need to be looking at it as a source of generating revenue. And I'd certainly like to have the sheriff involved in it as well. And I am very pleased. I want to compliment the county administrator. I haven't done it much, but I do want to tell you, I like what you've done with animal and litter control, taking my suggestion and letting them piggyback animal and litter since we don't have a litter officer. And I think that's been generating some activity. Am I correct on that?
Yes, sir.
That was a good move. That was a good move. And I think that was a step in the right direction, because I was, once again, I mean, I don't mean to talk about me so much,
Don't say it.
but I'm gonna have to. Once again, in 1985, we had a litter control, and it was animal litter. And we answered all the complaints with 3 officers, and we went through 500 complaints a month. So I'm just saying, there's things that we can do to really step it up, you know, but I do not want to get into, I'm not against maybe raising the fine, but I don't want to get into anything that says we're going to generate revenue by issuing tickets. Anyway, thank you.
May I just jump into that? Because I agree with Councilman Jones. I just want to clarify what I was saying.
I knew you
agree
did.
with Councilman Jones. Legally, we don't need to be doing ordinances to raise revenue. My point was that when your ordinance is set bluntly from a 1985 standard, then it doesn't catch up with the modern needs. When it costs more to enforce an ordinance than it does to not enforce it, then it should be revisited. So I agree with you. They should, and I want to make clear for the record down the road that I'm not at all advocating a penalty for the sole purposes of raising revenue.
And I knew that, Mr. Shoemake.
But
Mr.
you want to, I'm sorry.
I yield.
But you do, thank you, Madam Chair. But you do want to make it high enough so it is a deterrent for them not to do it. And I think that's where Mr. Cato was going.
Mr. Cato.
That's exactly where I was going. It's not a revenue issue, but it's more of a deterrent. You know, recently I just dealt with one of these issues, and I think we need to look at the difference between a simple littering case and illegal dumping, and the amount of garbage or trash or I'll tell you, from a rural aspect, you can ride through the woods and you can find these large areas where shingles and other debris, tires and other debris has been dumped on these small country roads. And that's something we really need to work on in this county. Just here a while back, I found a creek. Somebody came to myself and the resident deputy in my area. 14 bags of trash was dumped in a creek within a quarter mile of my house. And thanks to the sheriff's office, that deputy waded in the water, went out, found the name, went to that person. He took care of it. So I thank the sheriff's office for that. That's the kind of issues that we're dealing with in this county right now. And the more population we get, the worse it's going to get. The situation with the trash sites, with a lot of some of the contractors coming in, dumping, filling up the trash sites. There's a lot of issues that we need to address when it comes to litter, and I appreciate Mr. Shoemake bringing this up tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Shoemake. Mr. Jones.
Just to kind of end up on this, it's been a big problem for 25 years. I mean, I pick up trash in my front yard on Lashkall Road every day. McDonald's, Hardee's, whatever, Wendy's, and cups and trash are always thrown everywhere. And tires have always been thrown in creeks. There have always been trash bags in creeks. We've been dealing with that for 20 years. We just need to have a solid enforcement program, or the sheriff might want to take it over. I don't know. But bottom line is, it's been a problem for many, many years. So it's not just something that has just started happening. Thank you. My opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
From a lot of experience.
Any council members, when is the last time the litter ordinance was updated? Do we know?
As best I could tell, it's been a long, long time.
So it probably needs to be revisited anyways, even if
Absolutely.
it's appropriate.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Don't forget about Brent's on the phone.
Oh, Mr. Tomlinson. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, once again, Councilman Shumay, thank you for putting this on the agenda. This is, as also the animal control ordinance is a hot topic in my district. I get a lot of calls repeatedly, weekly about litter. Revenue, as everyone stated, isn't the reason for this. I would like to see community service implemented. You throw out trash, law enforcement gives you a ticket, you go to the court, and you get X amount of hours of community service. If people have to actually do hard work instead of paying for it, I think the litter would be less prominent in the county. However, we do have an issue. Our state has a huge issue. It's just not enforced around the state. Palmetto Pride, in the month of July alone, I think I've done 15 cleanups across the state of South Carolina during the South Carolina 7 expedition. We were just in Kershaw County doing the Waterloo River on the 15th of July. And I was with the director of our parks facility, and we were kayaking together, and he said that, he would go around to our parks, and the ones with trash cans there was just litter everywhere all around the trash can because people didn't care. They would just throw it at the trash can and it would be on the ground. However, the parks that didn't have trash cans were clean. So people would go and they wouldn't be able to clean out their cars and put it in. So I think there's a lot of things we need to look at going forward. And this is a good start. Thank you for creating the conversation, Councilman Shumay.
That's a good point, Mr. Tomlinson. Thank you. I would certainly be in support of an increased fine for it. All right, any other comments? Okay, moving on to item number C. I'm going to give the floor to the administrator, Mr. Danny Templer, to go over our revised SCIP grant application and award.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of council. Just wanted to give you all an update on where we stand with this project. As you remember, a while back, we engaged the state, the issuer of this grant in the tune of $10 million. We ran into a problem with our match money, so we re-engaged with the state and identified a scaled-down project that still allows us to have an increased capacity at our wastewater treatment facility. That capacity would take us from the original plan or project of 2 million gallons a day to 1 million gallons a day, which I think is still a huge win. We're still in the running for this grant at $10 million. We've revised the application to reflect that we would match at $7,600,000. That funding mechanism or those funding streams would come from within the enterprise fund of sewer itself. The rate increase is a contributing factor, reduced construction spending in fiscal year 2023. And you remember the SRF loan we secured to reimburse ourselves for Southern Loop Phase 1, where we paid for that out of the sewer, budgeted sewer funds. So we just asked the Rural Infrastructure Authority at the state to reimburse us for that project that we spent out of our pockets. So that I consider a funding stream at $2.7 million, and then the $3.3 million in our unrestricted net position as of 6/30/2022. So in sum, the excuse me, the sewer revenue has been strong. We've done the sewer rate increase, and that has allowed us to keep up with costs. And this is just a healthy department. So in terms of revenue, so I'm very excited to allow us to increase our wastewater treatment facility by 1 million gallons a day. We need the capacity with the growth, regardless of whether it's residential or industrial. But if we could do this to the tune of $17 million and not have to incur any debt, then I think that's a win. With the caveat of the SRF loan was a loan but at a very low interest rate, I think around 2%, which is almost unheard of for that amount of money. But that's what we get with the state revolving fund. It's a unique lending mechanism that does not count towards our 8% debt load for a general obligation. So that's where we're at. You have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Administrator, kind of lost me on some numbers. So I know it's 17 million total for one MG upgrade, correct?
Correct.
And what was the cost in our that we were going to be taking out of our sewer reserves?
From reserves would be $3,300,000.
Okay, 3.3 mil. And what is the current balance in that as of, you said June 30th?
We would take that unrestricted.
Okay,
money
that's the
from that
unrestricted
and
part.
take that out.
Let me write that down. Okay, and you said that this count is very solvent?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If I may.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the County Council. Now, the comments made by Madam Chair, she said that you were going to talk about the skip grant that we got some new information on and have been awarded. We haven't been awarded anything, am I correct?
Not yet. This is, they have some follow-up questions with us, but I feel pretty good about it. This
is Plan B from Plan A, where we were given a $10 million skip grant.
Then, yes.
Of course, we didn't know about it, and I think it signed on the last day. So therefore, you've gone back and talked with the so-beers at the state level, and they've worked with you, and you've worked with them very well. And I'm very pleased with that, Danny. I just want you to know that. I don't like the way the first one went down, double obligating our money, and this council not know anything about it. However, please keep us aware of what's going on with this one, because we have not been awarded this yet. But and you said we would be or would not be using a revolving.
Yes, that is part of the state revolving fund.
And that would cause it'd be an interest rate of 2%.
Right around there.
How much would we be getting from that revolving fund?
That is $2.7 million to reimburse us for Southern Loop Phase 1.
And where would you be making those payments for that? It would be coming out of the sewer?
Out of the sewer, yes.
So there would be no increase for any, and I think that's important, and I like that. This is still probably get a $10 million match.
$10 million.
And it would go from 2 MG as we did before because of everything that was in it, would go down to, because of us not being able to put any ARPA funds in it, would go down to 1 mil per day, 1 million gallons per day.
But this project here would give us a grand total of 3 million gallons per day.
And my point I'm trying to say is that, and we can do this without having to put any additional funds in it ourselves.
Correct, just everything so nothing from our reserves or anything else.
And with the tax base we get from Palmetto, which is
right.
2 plus whatever $1 million, that would also be, that's been paying off a lot of our debt, hasn't it?
Yes, sir, that's been
Thank you. Yeah, I say thank you to Palmetto Utilities for being such a good neighbor to Kershaw County, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to be sitting here talking about doing this without any additional increases to the taxpayers. I want to be personally kept informed on a step-by-step basis about this sewer program to make sure, and I know we're not going to drop the ball on it, but I just want to make sure things are moving forward and that I've been made aware of it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the council.
Thank you. Mr. Templer, was there a minimum match requirement for the SCIP grant?
There was. It was a 15%, but this more than exceeds that.
Okay.
So they also asked for contingency and things like that. But again, we're able to meet all those thresholds.
Okay. So you don't anticipate the award changing? We're just changing our part of it. Okay.
What about time? How long do you think it'll take before you get an answer?
It's hard to say. I wouldn't even know how to put a time on that.
Ask them.
Yeah. Well, and it's got to be soon, I would say, because these funds have a shelf life. And so the approach there would be to, of course, our funding does not. So we would front load the spending of the $10 million to beat the clock, if you will.
Front load it from our reserves.
Well, we would take all of the project costs and then submit for reimbursement from the $10 million grant, so we can spend that down and not leave anything on the table.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Templer?
I appreciate your hard work on that, coming back with what I think is a solid, positive plan. I just hope it works.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Tomlinson, do you have any questions for Mr. Templer?
No, Madam Chair, I do not have any questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, that concludes our discussions for this evening. Moving on to agenda item number 8, ordinances.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Tucker.
I would like to ask to be excused. I will recuse myself on ordinance number 8 underneath Alfred, the first one. Thank you.
You are welcome. We'll wait for Mr. Tucker to leave. Okay, the first ordinance. This is the third reading. An ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Kershaw County to rezone approximately 2.58 acres of property. TMS number 299000060, owned by Terry Coleman and located on the south side of Tickle Hill Road, approximately 1/4 mile north of Black River Road, Camden, South Carolina, from R15 Low Density Residential District to GD General Development. Is there a motion at this time for this ordinance?
I would make a motion to adopt this ordinance on third reading.
Okay, Mr. Shoemake makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Cato seconds. Is there any discussion or any additional questions that have come up? There's no changes that I see from the second reading. Okay, with that, all those in favor in rezoning the property TMS number 299000060 from R15 to DD indicate by raising your hand. And Mr. Cato, Mr. Jones, myself, and Mr. Shoemake. And this rezoning is adopted.
Madam Chair,
I'm sorry, Mr. Tomlinson. Right, Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I am in favor.
Okay, Mr. Tomlinson in favor. So Mr. Cato, Mr. Jones, myself, Mr. Shoemake, and Mr. Tomlinson, and Mr. Tucker has been recused. Yes. Thank you. We'll move on to Bravo. Another third reading. We'll wait for Mr. Tucker to get back. Mr. Coleman, are you out there? I hope you can retire eventually. Okay. Thank you. Pleasure working with you.
Just have the meeting in there, 10 degrees colder. Thank you, sir.
All right, second ordinance of the night on tab Bravo, third reading. An ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Kershaw County to rezone approximately 6.3 acres of property, TMS 26400000009, owned by Irving Branham and Marshall Branham, and located on the south side of Ridgeway Road, approximately 1/4 mile west of Smyrna Road, Ridgeway, South Carolina, from RD2 Rural Resource District to B2 General Business District. Is there a motion at this time regarding this ordinance?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we pass this ordinance for the third reading for the rezoning.
Okay, Mr. Tucker makes a motion to approve. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, Mr. Jones seconds. And into discussion. Any discussion or questions for the property owner? Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just want to say that, I know this is a touchy topic and we're not all in agreement. And I'm going to put my experience and my due diligence that I've taken to do, and the history of Dollar General doing right by this community. You know, I can't say what other counties have done, but the running joke in my family is there's a Dollar General, you know, you can go up number one and you can count 15 of them from Elgin back to Bethune. They're all over, but they're clean and they keep them up, and they have been a very, very good asset for the citizens in Kershaw County. And no, I don't have one by my house, but there's one built in the area where I live. It's not 300 yards or 3,000 yards or feet or miles, whatever Mr. Branham had said. But I think that the ones that may have some reservations, that they will find themselves pleasantly pleased once you open it, if it happens to pass tonight, and that you may find yourself using it. Now, you won't first because you're going to be rebellious, and that's okay. But let mom holler she needs something. And then you're going to take off to the store, and you're going to get it at the most convenient spot. So I wish both sides the best outcome as possible, but I will be supporting this, Madam Chair, tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Yes, Mr. Chubik.
So, I mean, I've in prior meetings, you know, addressed my concerns. You know, I'd be curious for those of you who are here tonight supporting this on this body. You know, the one concern I have is, you know, you look at the history of this, it was an 06 vote at the initial board. So it was unanimously, well, I think there was a person missing, but everyone.
That was the Planning Commission.
Correct. The Planning Commission unanimously said not to do this. And so I have hesitancy. Now, look, the Planning Commission gets it wrong. We're the ultimate last body. I get that. The Planning Commission can sometimes get it wrong, but I'm just a little bit, what gives me pause is we have a Planning Commission who unanimously said that this is not something they would support. And I'm just a little bit concerned about that. That's what gives me pause. I don't want to belabor it. I think I know where everyone stands, but I just wanted to share my concern. I'd be curious to hear your take on that.
Madam Chair, I already had a turn, but I need another one
You
on
need a
that
what? I'm sorry?
comment.
So you want to go before I go?
No, you go ahead.
No, I'm
Mr. Jones.
You go ahead.
You were curious of his?
Well, both.
No.
Honestly,
okay.
I'm just, I mean, obviously, you know, and I know that, you know, with Councilman Jones, I know we represent the whole county, but obviously we live in our district. So Councilman Jones, obviously this is your district. You've got, you know, better knowledge of these areas than I do. And I honestly am curious. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm honestly curious what what your thought is on that.
I'm going to give it to you. And I gave it WOTX today too. Let me say this. We've been through this before, as Mr. Tucker and some of you know, with the Dollar General up in another area. But I've never seen any evidence where Dollar General has devalued anybody's property. I haven't seen it. This Dollar General is going to be a DG market. It's going to have produce. It's going to have meat markets. I know a large group of the people up in that area. All of you, I've known some of you all my life. I think this would be very good. You got some folks up there. There's a 20-mile turnaround for them to go to town, or I call it Lugoff Town because it's always been a town to me, to purchase something and go back. And I do not follow the guidelines of the Planning and Zoning Commission because they don't get it right every time. That's their opinion based on information that they have looked at. But I'm going to tell you something. I think it's 3-1 in favor. I think this would be a good thing for the community. And I'm going to vote yes on it tonight. And I haven't asked any of y'all in here to vote for it, but I hope y'all will consider it because it is something that is needed there. They're not going to ever get a Harris Teeter, a Food Line, or Publix. But the DG folks, they're willing to go up there and invest in this community. You know, we say we're pro-business. I think this is a pro-business vote. And as I said, I'm going to support it, and I have no regrets about that. And I don't just work for my district. I hate it when someone says, well, this is your district. Don't minimize me by telling me I represent a district. I represent campaign funds that I've got came from more on this side of the river than did the Lugoff side of the river. I have signs up everywhere all over the county. You know, I mean, just telling the facts. So it may be my elected district, that's fine, but I mean, I think the people that are here on both sides have voiced their opinion, but bottom line is that to me, there's a large majority of people, Mr. Shoemake, that want this that versus don't want it. And I think it'd be a mistake if we didn't take this opportunity tonight to give these folks something that's going to be really nice and really decent, where they can go without having to drive 20 miles round trip in some cases, and they're getting older. You know, well, I can say that because I'm getting older too. And but thank you for your time.
Mr. Cato or Mr. Tomlinson? Okay,
Madam
Mr. Cato.
Chair. You know, I look at this, and just like any other vote that I believe we've taken since I came on council, is you never make everybody happy. There's never 100% of the county that says, this is what I want. And we have those decisions to make. Now, I'll speak from somebody that lives just as rural as any other councilman up here. I live 9 miles from the nearest Dollar General. That's about as rural as you can get. And it would be nice to have a Dollar General closer. You know, you never know when somebody's going to get sick, or you're going to be out of Tylenol, or you just want to run down and get a popcorn that you run out of. Just the simple things. But I do understand having one built within a few hundred yards of your house, or, you know, I understand the concerns, but I agree. I agree with Councilman Jones and Councilman Tucker. You know, I've never seen in the county, I've never seen the Dollar General that the grounds was littered or wasn't kept up, and they do a good job, and I hope they'll continue to do a good job with that. And I believe that this would be a great asset to the community. I really do. So tonight, I'm going to have to support this, and I believe in the future we'll see that this will benefit to that area.
Thank you. Mr. Tomlinson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I will also be in support of this. I've done much research about it, and there's actually some mixed research regarding the effects of Dollar Generals in rural communities. You know, it kind of goes both ways. I think, you know, everybody was scared of Walmart popping up also, and Walmart was the savior of America, so everybody could go get a single thing at one place instead of having to go to the grocery store, to the old hardware store. You could get everything in one location. I think Dollar General and the type of Dollar General that is proposed will be a benefit to the community. I do see both sides. I think, and you know, the effects are you're going to have more traffic, people's property right next to it. I'm sure that they don't want to have the increased traffic, but there's also the, you know, gas station right there. So they're already seeing that. I think from the comments that I've received and the people I've talked to, I'm going to have to support this tonight. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. I am in receipt of the petition, Mr. Mines, and I know that Ms. Green has left. Also from Mr. Freddie Ortiz on 2703 Ridgeway Road, who does not, he's a neighbor that does not want it built. I did get a legal opinion. As you said, Mr. Mines, it's like cherry picking individual properties. We are not allowed to do that. That's called spot zoning. So I did get a legal opinion on that. And the legal opinion was that this is not considered spot zoning. So I was concerned about that. So I looked into it. So we have 2 petitions, opposing and going against. I want to bring everybody back to some of the key issues, our comprehensive plan. So here are the comprehensive plan considerations that we should all be asking ourselves sitting up here. Enable and promote a variety of commercial uses and development in locations that are appropriate and compatible with surrounding land uses that provide employment opportunities and serve the needs of the residents. So when I read that, I do feel like this development in this project meets that requirement. encourage the location of new and expanded residential, commercial, and industrial development in areas where existing water and sewer facilities, roads, and other infrastructure or planned facility upgrades can accommodate the development. We do have that here as well. So this is really just a matter of the council and what they believe is best for that area, and there's more support in that area than not. So I do have to support it tonight, and I did hear your concerns, everyone that came out to speak against it. I believe strongly in property rights, so the owner of the property, I do want to let them do what they want to do with it as well. It's near an intersection, so that is conducive for other commercial property as well. So as we grow, different areas are going to look different as we go through the growth process. So I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you to everyone that came out, though, supporting it or not supporting it, so your voices can be heard. Anything else, Mr. Tucker?
Yes, Madam Chair. Sorry to interject it earlier. You touched on one thing that I spoke about the last two times I read about spot zoning, and of course, like you say, that's not what this is. Actually, there's a business across the street that's zone B2 as well. And so to answer your question, Councilman Shoemake, my personal opinion on what the commission was thinking was this was a feel-good vote, because talking to our director, Mr. Joey, and talking to the commissioners, which I spoke to several of them, there's no rational rhyme reason other than they were concerned about the homes in the area. There's nothing legal that this zoning is illegal that this zoning is doing. So, I can't answer for them, but it won't be my first vote against the commission.
If I may.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
I voted against it more than you have, thank you.
You vote against everybody more than I have.
All right, so bringing it back to the rezoning, this request does follow the future land use map, and it does correlate with our current comprehensive plan. All right, Mr. Tomlinson, anything else to add?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, with that, all those in favor of rezoning TMS 26400000009 from RD2 to B2 indicate by raising your hand. Mr. Cato, Mr. Jones, myself, Mr. Shoemake, and Mr. Tucker. And Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in support.
Okay, the vote is unanimous, and that rezoning request is approved.
It was a unanimous vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Shoemake.
moving on to next ordinance, a third reading. An ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Kershaw County to rezone approximately 46 acres of property, TMS 063, 00, 00, 104, 113, 114, 115, 116, and 117, owned by James F. Kelly IV and located on the east side of Kershaw Highway, just north of Carolina Motorsports, Kershaw, South Carolina, from RD2 Rural Resource District to GD General Development District. Is there a motion at this time regarding this ordinance?
I'll make a motion that we approve this ordinance.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Cato. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tucker. And any discussion?
Is this D on the agenda?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to share.
It's Charlie.
Piece of paper in front of me.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Cato.
I just want to say that, and I said this before, Carolina Motorsports Park is, if you go up there, you'll see just how well taken care of this park is. They have a great staff. It's great for Kershaw County. I look forward to what they're going to do. They provide multiple employment opportunities up there for people around Kershaw County, and I thank them for what they do. They provide a little bit of entertainment up there for them from time to time, and I've had an opportunity to visit the park and to look at the area that it sits on, and it's a beautiful place. And I thank them for what they do up there, and I look forward to see what comes next. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cato. Any other comments?
Ditto.
Mr. Tomlinson?
No, Madam Chair.
Bless you.
All right. Well, I can't wait to see what Carolina Motorsports Park does next. They have been great partners in the community. So all those in favor of rezoning TMS 06300000104, 113, 114, 115, 116, and 117 from RD2 to GD indicate by raising your hand. Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in favor of the ordinance.
Okay, and the vote is unanimous. Okay, moving on. This is a first reading. An ordinance to amend the official zoning map of Kershaw County to rezone approximately 60 acres of property, TMS 30800000084, excluding 1 acre future utility parcel for an existing cell tower on parcel 084, owned by Donald E. Taylor and located on the north side of Wildwood Lane, approximately 1/4 mile west of Watts Hill Road, Elgin, South Carolina, from RD2 Rural Resource District to R15 Low Density Residential District. Is there a motion at this time? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve this rezoning. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Mr. Shoemaker, second for discussion. Okay, discussion, any questions? Mr. Taylor is here if there's any questions from him.
I do have a question. I don't know if
Yeah, Mr. Taylor, can you come up, please? Mr. Taylor, what's your plan with this property?
Okay, the reason I'm here, in one sense, our family doesn't want to be here, and I know that sounds weird. About 4 years ago, we realized the area to the top left, Watts Hill Road, is so infested with narcotics, derelicts. We've had 2 deaths on my property. I live at the bottom on the pond. Looks like a coffin shape, for lack of better description. But my children and I, 10 and 7, we use the property recreationally, and 3 or 4 years ago, it became evident the sheriff's department just can't stop the people. What's funny is people say, what about no trespassing signs or fences? Not only have they taken down the barbed wire and recycled it, they took the gates with them. Yeah. So the children's grandfather, Don Taylor, who owns the property, has decided that we need to move on. We are only I'm gonna remain on the property. We are only selling to the left side where you see the gas line cutting through. And then I'll remain on the bottom right. Joey and I have talked extensively about the ponds. They'll, of course, be given to a homeowners association. Naturally, we're real estate developers out of Columbia, but I have moved up here. I'm 4th generation. My children represent 5th generation. So that's why I say I had looked forward to them growing up here like I did. But we got to be realistic. I think a little bit of low-density development's the only chance we have to slow it down. And my neighbors, I've met with them, they wholeheartedly support it, unless I don't think anybody's going to show up to oppose it. But the ones I've met with who live in beautiful homes on Wildwood want to see that continued. That's our plan.
So I did get, and it was today, so I haven't had a chance to look at it, to be fair. I did get an email from someone that owns, I don't know where, I don't want to say his name because he sent me an email today, but he said he's one of the neighbors and is concerned about this sort of losing its sort of rural character with development. I was just going to kind of get your, and again, I don't have enough information to support or deny that. I'm just telling you what I heard today.
Well, I agree. I hate, George is here, but I hate the sheriff left. He and I have emailed back and forth the last 2.5 years or so, and the promise of I'm going to send a narcotics thing, that's not our sheriff. That's the reality of people who, for instance, I got hit in the face with a flashlight by a derelict recently. I caught him walking the gas line. They stay off the roads. They don't want to be on Wildwood or Watts Hill. So I confronted him and I said, hey man, you can't be on the property. He came after me. I'm not armed. My lawyer took my gun because he doesn't want me to get shot, he said. But you just can't explain to your children anymore why people are on your property.
And your thinking is developing or having it developed would reduce that because, well, there'd be more eyes out. Is that kind of the thought?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that. The other thing, I tried an experiment. We have rental houses there that we're going to tear down now because we can't find tenants who want to live in that area who, quite frankly, have good jobs. And it's frustrating. I live at the magistrate's office. I think I'm going to get a Christmas card from them this year. But like I said, it's frustrating to come here. My dad learned how to hunt as a boy there. I don't like it, but that's the wishes of the family, and so.
If you don't mind, I'm going to be in favor of it tonight. There's 2 more readings.
Thank you.
But I would like to maybe grab lunch or something and talk.
I hope you will. Any of you that have questions, I hope you, and I'll show you firsthand that they're living in tents. You run them off, they come back. And I think the only way is to low density develop some of it. We're going to keep 18 acres, I believe Joey and I figured out.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Taylor, is that the part where the pond is on? Because I was going to ask why the pond was not included in these 60 acres.
Yeah, he told me to remove it because it will go into a homeowners association that I'll be a part of and be a part of the deed restrictions. My neighbor, he's not here tonight, but he was at Planning Commission. He lives straight across the pond on Watts Hill. He can tell you, if you leave a bicycle outside, it's gone the next morning. I mean, so he and I are going to be a part of the deed restrictions with anybody who, I'll be honest, I've got 5 developers all over us that are very interested, but I'm going to help do the deed restrictions. We're not going to, as you see on the large part off the water, now those will probably be 2,000 square foot homes typically. The larger ones will be, of course, around the water features. You see the ones top right, that's Sessions Ridge. They're 1 acre lots, and they will bring probably $40,000 to $50,000 each. And we have heavy deed restrictions on those that are already recorded.
Mr. Taylor, will every lot be 1/2 acre at least?
Well, yes, at least, but typically 3/4 to 2 acres. Because you have a
Okay.
little, as everybody knows, you have a little bit of wetlands around the ponds.
Okay.
So when we asked for the RF, Joey said you got to have that to, if it's .6, Robbie Lackey's already done a survey, so.
How many houses?
69 in theory, but realistically 45, 50 maybe. I'm hoping to, like I said, I'm going to live there. We ride motorcycles and four-wheelers, and I mean, I'm so emotional tonight. I'm wrapped like a taco. I mean, I do rezonings all over the state, and I'm never emotional about it. But this one it's hard to look at your children and say, hey, the pond we swim in is getting ready to have, 35 people and paddle boats. I hope it's not that bad.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Tomlinson?
I do not have any comments, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Taylor, thank you for being here. It's your property, so I do want to help you do what you want to do with it.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the first reading to rezone TMS 308-00-00048 from RD2 to R15 indicate by raising your hand. Mr. Cato, myself, Mr. Shoemake, and Mr. Tucker. Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
And Mr. Tomlinson, and all those opposed? And Mr. Jones opposed. Right, this ordinance passes first reading. It will be on the agenda for a second reading at the next meeting. All right, moving on, item Echo. Okay, we're getting into our ZLDR changes. Okay, this is the first reading of case 23-09, an ordinance to amend the Kershaw County, South Carolina Unified Code of Zoning and Land Development Regulations, section 3.1.3, table 3-4, to require minimum lot sizes of 15,000 square feet for residential development. Is there a motion at this time pertaining to this ordinance change?
Madam Chair, I would move that we adopt this ordinance.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Shoemake. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tucker. And discussion. Mr. Shoemake, I'll give you the floor. You made the motion.
Sure. So obviously we've talked about this a little bit already, but this would have the net effect of making minimum lot sizes approximately 0.34 acres. I think this is important. I mean, for example, just look at what Mr. Taylor is doing. Obviously, he is making larger lot sizes because the wetlands required, and he's choosing to do that. But there are areas in our county, I mean, I'll just be blunt. For those of you who've been on number one by the ice machines, there are these 4 houses, and I'm not commenting on the quality of those homes or the desirability of living in those homes, but if you've seen those homes on number one, it's 4 homes nearly pushing against each other. And that's the sort of thing that I think as prudent zoning, we don't want to have homes that smushed in together. I think that you've got some very rural areas in our county, out in Cassett and some of those areas. But as you get into Elgin and Lugoff, I mean, the neighborhoods are coming fast. And I think we have to be, I agree with you, Madam Chair, that we need to respect people's property rights. And I think you would agree with me that we have to find a balance between that and making sure we don't overextend our police, our fire, and put too much taxes on our roads, because I know we've talked about this. And so I think this is a good balance. Honestly, most feedback I've gotten has been make them larger. But again, I think we start here. I've gotten some feedback from some folks about possibly looking at, maybe expanding if there's water sewer. I mean, I'll take a look at that between now and second and third reading. I'm not sure if we can do that countywide. The problem with doing it countywide is it allows those smaller lot sizes in that Elgin and Lugoff area, and we really can't say only this area is zoned because we just talked about spot zoning. So it's, at least for tonight for first reading, I think this is a good ordinance. I'm going to look at that issue to see if I might want to make an amendment, but I think it's a good ordinance, and I appreciate your help on that, Councilman Jones. I know you and I've talked a lot about this. You put me in touch with Fiona Martin, who's been wonderful. to talk about these issues. I've talked with Joey, so this is not, to be clear, something I just sort of came up with on a napkin. I've met with our attorney, our county administrator, our planning and zoning director. I've talked to Councilman Jones extensively, with you extensively, and really everyone on this council extensively before I put it on the agenda with yourself, Madam Chair. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker. Any other comments?
Yes.
Discussion, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, the 1, 2, 3, 4, the next 4 ordinances, I just want to say something right quickly. The zoning code of amendments to the land development regulations before county council are, I think, good amendments. And first, it's a small step in the right direction. In February 2022, I made a motion to completely redo the comprehensive plan and the zoning code, which was long overdue. The plan and the code were in extreme need of revision. I want to see a timeline as to when comprehensive plan and the new zoning code will be recommended to council by the Planning Commission. Also, I would like the administrator to look at our planning and zoning department to make sure that they have enough staff to address the processing matters and providing answers to the citizens. I get numerous complaints on at least a weekly basis from citizens that complain about the wait time, not being able to get answers from our planning and zoning department. And before I criticize the planning and zoning department, I want to make sure that the department is adequately staffed and equipped, Mr. Templer. So I have 3 things about planning and zoning, dealing with what we're doing here tonight. We are long overdue in rewriting a zoning ordinance and a comprehensive plan. Really, council is way behind on this. So as I said, Mr. Shoemaker, this is a great first step. And when I made my motion in February 2022, the former council was spending all of its time on a Vision 2030 plan of which had no value. And I commend and applaud our Madam Chair for putting it where it belonged, in the wastebasket. We need to make sure that this council and the administration does not continue to make the same mistake and provide leadership and adequate resources to adequately staff planning and zoning, and that we enact a good comprehensive plan and code that works. But finally, today, we are talking about a small step in the right direction. I want to thank you for that, Mr. Shoemaker. You've taken a leadership role in it, and I think it's been good. And Madam Chair, members of council, that concludes my reports. And Mr. Temple, you did understand what I want to say about the assessment of the planning and zoning department.
Yes, sir. And to your point, through this budget year, at third reading, if I'm not mistaken, we took and rearranged some positions, some salary in that department, and we've created another permit tech position to help with the flow on the front side there.
Well, I think planning, zoning, and Joy are working very hard. It's just sometimes not going in the right direction because of our leadership. And I take personal responsibility for that because they're operating under a lot of rules from the old council. This council really had nothing to do with. And I appreciate Madam Chair and Derek's comments on this and their support in trying to get this in the right direction. Thank you.
Mr. Cato, Mr. Tomlinson.
I really appreciate, I know that Councilman Shoemaker and Madam Chair and Councilman Jones, among others, have been working really, really hard on this. This has been one of the passions of Madam Chair and Councilman Shoemaker since they've gotten on council. I think this is a start in the right direction. And this is, the first penny in the glass. There's some other things that I think we still need to look at before we become, pop-up cookie cutter Lexington County, which they're trying to regret right now. So thank you all for your hard work on this, and I will be in support of this.
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. So this kind of started from a discussion, and then as the next 3 items that are all changing the CLDR were born from this initial initiative to increase the lot sizes to lower density. That is just something that we can do immediately, I mean, with 3 readings and a hearing to slow down the high density growth in Kershaw County. So instead of waiting for the comprehensive plan, I really commend my colleagues, Planning and Zoning and Mr. Templer for working on this and continuing to get it onto the agenda in my absence. So we've been at this for a while, so I'm glad to see it's finally here. We will have a hearing for this Planning and Zoning change on August 8th. And that will be for all 4 of these zoning changes. Do you have anybody have the hearing paper in front of them? Okay, we have it on a slide, so we'll remind everybody when we get there. So we will have a public hearing. Again, this is just something we can do now to try to help minimize the high density developments in Kershaw County.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I was going to in my talking points, I said it's one small step in the right direction. I really want to use one small step for mankind in the right direction, but I found out somebody else used that when they stepped on the moon. So I made that clear. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor of the first reading of case 2309, an ordinance to amend the Kershaw County, South Carolina Unified Code of Zoning and Land Development Regulations, section 3.1.3, table 3-4, to require a minimum lot size of 15,000 square feet for residential development, indicate by raising your hand. Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in favor of the ordinance.
Okay, and the vote is unanimous. It passes first reading. All right, next. First reading, case 2311, an ordinance to amend the Kershaw County, South Carolina Unified Code of Zoning and Land Development Regulations to amend Article 2 to delete conservation design as a defined term, to amend Section 3.1.3 by repealing Table 3-5, to amend Section 3.1.3, Table 3-6 by removing references to non-residential conservation design developments, to amend Section 3.5.4-4 by repealing provisions related to conservation design subdivisions and group development projects, to amend Section 3.5.4-5 by repealing provisions related to open space in a conservation design subdivision and group development design project, to amend Section 5.2.1-2, Table 5.4, to remove reference to conservation design projects, to repeal Section 5.3.3 to remove all provisions related to conservation subdivision and group development designs, and to amend the table of contents for Articles 3 and 5 by removing all references to ordinance provisions repealed by this ordinance. Is there a motion at this time?
I would move that we adopt this ordinance.
Okay, Mr. Shoemake makes the motion to adopt. And a second? And second by Mr. Tucker. All right, any discussion? Mr.
Just to
Shoemake.
offer a brief explanation, so, very briefly. This seems very long, but it's actually pretty straightforward. We have a section in our zoning code that has these conservation design areas, and they've really never been used. And so as part of this comprehensive plan that we're undergoing, we're going to try to find a different way, or they're going to try to find a different way that we can have these conservation districts. But this just hasn't worked for us. Nobody's done them, so they're just a bunch of extra verbiage in the code, and we're just taking it all out.
Thank you, good explanation. And the Planning and Zoning Director is here if we need any detailed information. But on the types of common open space and required maintenance, we have natural areas, recreational areas, greenways, landscaped areas, lawns, and required buffer areas. And item E, conservation design, subdivision, and group development projects. And again, through this process of reviewing our ZLDR, we found out that we don't use this, so we are deleting it. All right, Mr. Tomlinson, any questions?
No, Madam Chair, I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor of approving Are all those in favor of this motion, first reading, case 23-11, to amend the Kershaw County, South Carolina Unified Code of Zoning and Land Development to delete conservation design as a defined term, indicate by raising your hand. And Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
Okay. The vote is unanimous. This first reading passes. Next case, 23-12. This is the first reading. An ordinance to amend the Kershaw County, South Carolina Unified Code of Zoning and Land Development Regulations to amend Section 3.1.3, Table 3-3 to correct the site-built housing categories involving triplex and quadruplex housing. Is there a motion regarding this ordinance at this time?
I would move that we adopt this ordinance.
Okay, motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tucker. And any questions or discussion? Mr. Shoemake, can you
Sure.
put this one in layman's terms for us?
Right. So this is basically what we call the Scrivener's error. Basically, we wrote the wrong things down back when we were doing some of these ordinances. So this basically fixes the ordinance to correct what we call these site build categories, where triplexes and I believe it's triplexes and quadplexes, are listed. So basically, it's doing what we've been doing, but they were just put basically wrong on the chart. So this is cleaning up that as we went through these ordinances. We're going to fix these little typos and these errors that, again, it doesn't impact anyone's property rights. It simply just changes and fixes something that was inadvertently written down wrong.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I think everybody has the chart in their packet. You can see that triplex and quadruplex are listed twice, so we need to delete them from that first section. Mr. Tomlinson, do you have any questions?
No, Madam Chair, I didn't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of this first reading of 23-12 to correct the site-build housing categories involving triplex and quadruplex housing indicate by raising your hand. Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
Okay, the vote is unanimous. This passes first reading. All right, next, item H, first reading, case 23-10, an ordinance to amend the Kershaw County, South Carolina Unified Code of Zoning and Land Development Regulations to amend Section 3.3.8 Juliet from an allowed density of 6 manufactured homes per acre to an allowed density of 3 manufactured homes per acre, and to amend Section 3.1.3, Table 3-3 to correct the status of manufactured housing parks in R6 and GD districts from permitted use to conditional use. Is there a motion at this time?
No, stop now.
I would move that we accept this motion.
Okay, Mr. Shoemake makes the motion to approve,
Second.
and Mr. Tucker with the second. All right, into discussion. Mr. Shoemake, do you want to take the floor?
Sure. So this is, obviously, as we're talking about lot sizes, one of the things you also want to address is manufacturer mobile homes. So this certainly still allows them, but kind of in keeping with the other types of uses we have, rather than having 6 allowed per acre, brings that down to 3. It also, we have in certain areas, particularly a general development district, we had it initially listed as a permitted use, meaning you could just do it. It's now a conditional use, so you have to meet certain requirements. You can't just buy land and, throw trailers on it in those 2 areas. So that's basically what it does.
Thank you.
No, Madam Chair.
Mr. Tucker.
And with these changes, everybody who is, and this is more for Mr. Joey back there or the administrator, everybody's grandfathered in who has more than 3 now. Now, how does this work? Because Mr. Jones and I have run into this before. If you have a hardship, someone home catches a fire, is that where they would have to come in to replace that mobile home and ask for a variance or whatever the process is?
They have 1 year, don't they, Mr. Tucker?
I'm not sure exactly on the time frame, but we actually had that to happen, and it was a real hardship on the family before we finally got it straight.
Hey, Joey.
Good evening, council
So I
members.
think the question, we still allow variances and take those up as we do now?
Yes, I just want to make sure that family can have that home replaced within whatever timeframes that we have structured, and that they're, they're still on their property because they were there before we changed this ordinance.
Absolutely. The current code actually has that provision in it today, where as long as it's replaced within 365 days or 1 year.
You're correct, Mr. Jones.
Yes, so they can continue.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
You're welcome. I wasn't talking to you, but thank you. We're done, Madam Chair.
Mr. Tomlinson, do you have any questions or comments?
No, Madam Chair, no comments or questions.
Okay. Anything else? All right. All those in favor of the first reading of case 23-10 to amend section 3.1.3, table 3-3 to correct the status of manufactured housing parks in R6 and GD districts from permitted use to conditional use, indicate by raising your hand. Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
Okay. The vote is unanimous in favor. That passes first reading. Thank you, everyone. We got through that. That was a lot of reading. And Ryan, here's the public notice. Okay, so the public notice went out already. The public hearing for all 4 of these ZLDR changes will be Tuesday, August 8th at 6 p.m.
That's our next meeting, correct?
Yes, August.
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Mhm.
Okay, moving into old business. First item under old business, boat ramp progress and plan. This was placed on the agenda by myself and Councilman Brazel. I'm going to give the floor to you, Mr. Templer, if you can give us just a brief the progress you've made, and then we'll go to see if there's a motion on the floor for a plan forward.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of council. So a while back, we were kind of in need of better understanding than what we needed to do out at this boat ramp. There were some questions back and forth of ownership, but I think we've since put those questions to bed. We've even went as far as looking at possibly installing a boat ramp at the Veterans Park, just as a potential plan B. But with the state budget passing down $500,000 to go into the current boat ramp over at Patriots Point, and our $100,000 we offered as a match for that project, we will move forward with the Patriots Landing improvement over there. One thing we're going to be careful to do and intentional is have some public input for those that use the boat ramp. We don't want to design something that doesn't make sense or is not usable. One of the things I do know we need is an additional boat ramp, and obviously from our lessons learned, hard lessons learned, is to place any kind of structure, be it a pier or a dock. Certainly we're going to place that downstream from the boat ramps. So I know there's some parking concerns over there. We'll try to address that and just have it understanding that we have a $600,000 budget. We will try to get as much out of that as we can. The good news is that it's an existing recreational area. Permitting will be at a minimum. We'll just submit some basic permits to the Army Corps of Engineers to let them know that we're going to expand on that project. Again, we have a boat ramp there, so it's an expansion as opposed to starting with a blank slate. So we, again, will look for public engagement on that, public input. And we plan to advertise those well in advance, at least 3 of those public input meetings, so we can make sure we capture as many of the end users as we can for that project.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I had one
Yes,
question.
Mr. Schumach.
When we do the notice, because sometimes it's so hard you never know what channels do the notice. Is there any way, like you do when you do rezoning, that whenever you have the public meeting scheduled, you could do those yellow signs down at the boat ramp?
Yes, yes.
Okay, because all right, perfect, because I feel like that's people who use the boat ramp are likely to see them.
Right,
So,
right.
Perfect.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Mr. Templer, can you spend their money before you spend ours on the 600,000?
Yes, and so from conversations with the state, the money will be given to us. So the prior project was a DNR project. They had DNR engineers involved, so this will be ours. We will spend their money first.
You know why they did that? Because they own the land. It's not our land.
Right.
Right. But Veterans Park is, and I appreciate you, you looking at that. But, you know, what's so ironic is that, and I go by there and actually check it more since I found out she did, because she had given me some valuable information on vehicles out there, talking to some people. So I started going through there back and forth to from Camden to Lugoff. What I've noticed is that I have received no complaints since we tore the ramp, the pier down.
Yes, sir.
You know, now the boat landing, I've had no complaints on that. I've had no one say somebody's about to get hurt, but boy, we had them about every week with people getting trapped under there, whatever. So I appreciate you looking at that downstream. And I really appreciate more than anything else that you're going to talk to members of the community from Camden, Lugoff, all over who use that, who probably know it better than any of us. But please, no more studies on building a boat ramp.
So to your point, what we were looking at most recently were renderings and what it would look like. So we will have renderings necessary for that so we can come up with a plan. And so it's something that is has the ability to go out for bid and inspect out. So we will have to engage with an engineering firm to come up with it. But that just allows the engineers to convert this project into language that allows.
Well, and place it in the right direction or place. No question about that. All right. Because I've actually seen somebody get sucked up under that pier. I didn't. It was very dangerous, when it was there, and I commend you and Mr. Carpenter for taking it down as quick as y'all did. Even though we don't own the land and it's not ours, at least this council stepping up and Mr. Cornell getting, working to get that money along with Mr. Shoemaker, whoever it was.
The delegation.
Delegation.
That was Chairwoman Gwen and the congressional delegation that got that.
Okay, then Chairwoman, I'll just give her all the credit. Madam Chair, thank you. But please, let's move as fast as we can on that and in the right direction.
Okay. Mr. Templer, how long is it going to take you to engage the public and get the plans? How much time do you need?
With the blessing of council tonight, I would like to move forward as quick as possible. I would like to have something back within 60 days.
Okay.
And so a pretty aggressive timeline, but with ample opportunity for advertisement. I like Mr. Shoemaker's idea there of actually placing notifications where it's down there at the boat ramp. So 60 days max.
Okay.
To have something back.
Okay, and the engineering plans will come out of that,
Yes.
the funding for the project?
Correct.
Okay.
So the goal would be to let the public input be the driver of what the engineers come up with.
Okay. Okay. All right, well, I'm ready to support whatever you need to move that forward. Is there a motion at this time
Madam
regarding
Chair?
the boat ramp plan? Yes, Mr. Tucker.
If I may.
Yes, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to make a motion that the Kershaw County government engages the citizens of Kershaw County through public meetings to gain input on what citizens wish to see happen at Patriots Landing and bring back a plan to council no later than October the 10th. With no more than $10,000 be spent on engineering plans and the total project not to exceed the remaining allocation in the budget of $590,000. So do not exceed $600,000. You can come up a little shorter. That is my motion, Madam Chair.
Okay. Motion that the Kershaw County engage the citizens of Kershaw County through public meetings and come back to council with a plan no later than October 10th. No more than $10,000 spent on the engineering plans, and the total project not to exceed the allocation of $600,000 total. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Jones, second. Any discussion on the motion or?
Yes, ma'am. I would
Yes,
just
Mr.
like
Tucker.
to state the funding source, because I don't want people think this is new money. This was budgeted in our budget already. Of course, the 500,000 came, as Madam Chair just said, from the Kershaw County Delegation, or PRT. And then the 100,000 was what council did from opera, put it in the budget.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, any other comments or questions? Mr. Tomlinson?
No, Madam Chair, I don't have any comments.
Okay. All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion to engage the citizens of Kershaw County through public meetings to gain input and get the engineering plans not to exceed $10,000 and bring plans back to council no later than October 10th with the entire project not to exceed $600,000, indicate by raising your hand. And Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
Okay. And the vote is in favor unanimously. All right, so Mr. Templer will have the plans at the October 10th meeting or before, as soon as you can. And please let us know when the public meetings are going to be so we can get people there. All right, next item of old business, the Kershaw County Detention Center plan. They've been patiently waiting. So we have Mr. Todd Davis from Mosley here and Mr. Kevin Jones, the director. Mr. Templer, I'm going to give you the floor. Give us an update on where we are with the detention center and where we need to go.
Madam Chair, members of council, we engaged with Mosley Architects to perform a study of our jail to see where we stand, to see what the future holds for our jail in terms of expansion and or replacement, and just to give us a complete assessment. This was one of my high priorities as coming in as administrator, was the jail and its future needs as it relates to capacity. We experienced some difficulties throughout COVID, but we were able to make do of it with the population in our jail, with isolation and things like that. So I credit the jail staff for making that happen. But the current, we've again just trying to anticipate our needs well beyond, I would say 2035, 2045, and how this community is growing as it relates to our needs for a larger jail. So the current location has the ability for an expansion over there and or a replacement with about 8 additional unused acres over there, with I think some opportunity to purchase any additional land if we needed it. I don't think we will, based on that 7 acres. This year, we budgeted $600,000 out of capital projects to go in and make improvements and necessary repairs to equipment, washing machines, and the roof, and some other structural things that just are in need of maintenance over at the jail. There's some painting that needs to go on and some plumbing issues that need to be addressed. Our population, our average daily population, is increasing, and it's holding relatively steady, which is concerning, and it is really pushing us to really have to look at this study as being truly an actionable study and not something we shelve as government tends to do. The number of inmates held in our facility right now, the vast majority of them are either violent crimes or general session charges, and those cases move relatively slow compared to summary court cases. There's also a fair amount of family court cases with that's a rather complex case as well. So we're just not moving inmates in and out of our facility through adjudication like we have in the past. We've looked at things like ankle monitors and some other creative opportunities, but that's just not going to be sufficient to be able to do what we need to do and meet minimum care standards set forth by the state. So we will continue to budget money in future budgets to make these improvements and to catch up on some maintenance over there. But ultimately, and I'll have Mr. Davis come up and speak to this, we are really looking down a jail expansion is what we're looking at. I wouldn't say a replacement based on cost, but what I'm needing tonight is, much like the boat ramp, is the ability to press forward to find out exactly what that facility would look like. We have 89 beds now. We're over capacity, and we're looking at probably needing around 250 beds combined. So that is going to be a rather large project. So I need to understand, as the administrator, what that price tag looks like, what the timeline looks like. Is it feasible? What are other options? The logistics involved in something like that, a project where you're already housing inmates, this will be an incredibly complex undertaking. So I'll have Mr. Davis come up and answer any questions that y'all may have of him. And of course, I'm certainly willing to answer any questions you may have of me.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr. Templer. Yes, Mr.
While he's
Tucker.
coming up, can I get you one from the administrator, please? I have a question for the administrator while he's coming up.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Templer, with you getting some preliminary numbers on expansion, if that comes in relatively high, which I think it will with the age of our jail, is there any additional cost or time delay on a new facility? I just want to know what that looks like as well, because I know that's an easier transition from trying to build onto a jail that's got inmates versus building a new facility. And that way we can have that discussion as well up here on council. And is the property back there, is it enough for purchase? Let me ask that. Or would you have to relocate for a new facility?
You know,
I can answer those questions too.
I went and looked at the property the other day, and just looking at the TMS mapping, there are some housing developments that have purchased property right adjacent to our property. And of course, towards the river, we have the city of Camden, the wastewater treatment facility with a rather large buffer there. So I think I see that as an opportunity if we had to make a land purchase, maybe engage with the city. But this is just putting, the cart way in front of the horse. But I think it would be sufficient, but I don't know what that facility would look like, and that's where I just kind of need the help of Mosley to help me understand. One thing I do worry about is the monetary side as it relates to our 8% general obligation bond limit. So bond capacity, this is not something I would like to kind of max out our bond capacity for, but it is pressing enough to really consider, an expansion, as just to have more room over there. So it's a lot to think about, and it's probably going to be one of the harder decisions we have to make as a group, because it's number one, it's not going to be cheap, and it's not going to be easy.
If I may.
Yes, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Templer, for all the hard work. And you've always said this is a top priority of yours, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I appreciate that. And of course, I like the fact that we're taking it up now. I mean, we have no resources other than we're probably going to have to go out and maybe a fee, millage, or a bond or something. I don't know. But it's going to cost us a lot. But let me tell you, is it 23 acres? I always thought it was 23 acres we had there.
It is, and you're right, but there's some on the other side. That
Yeah, because I think you told me 20 acres earlier, but I was thinking that was 23 acres. Here I go again, a lot of my valuable experience. I was the project manager when we built that jail. It was too small when we built it. And it was an indirect supervision, and I liked direct supervision based on numbers, Mr. Jones, and I think you know what I'm talking about. However, the jail wasn't adequate when we built it 20 years ago, and it's been 89 population since 20 years ago. One thing we did do, though, and I'm concerned about something you said about not being able to get, we're a type 2 housing facility, correct, Mr. Jones? Therefore, we can only hold someone up to 90 days. But however, when they're awaiting court and when the judicial system is not working, we get backlogged, whether it's mental health evaluations or there's no court time. I don't know. There's got to be something that Mr. Jones and Mr. Bone, the sheriff, somebody needs to get with, whether it's the solicitor's office or whoever, have some docket meetings, and let's try to get some pleas in, some sentences in, and get these folks out. I think we're holding some of these folks too long. And
Mr. Jones, when you have a moment, I can speak a little bit to that.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate that too. But it's a big concern of mine because we now have any extra money we have, we put it on something else. And I'm not going to go back there. But bottom line is we got to find the money and we need to do it right. And I think an expansion might be the best way to look at it on first hand, you know, because if you tear it down, try to build a new facility, you're going to look at double, triple the cost, I would think, to an expansion. I like the expansion idea. I just want this council to tell me where we're going to get the millions of dollars to do the expansion, and we're talking about it now after we have no other resources but to go to the people to do it. And it should have been talked about a year ago. So,
Thank you, Mr.
So, excuse me one second. So another thing too, and I'd like for this to be understood and maybe looked at, it's a lot of work on staff, a heck of a lot of work staff with work release, because you got them going out in the day, coming back in at night, and I know it's a miserable thing for staff, but it also generates, you know, savings for the detention plus house arrest generate, because if it's what you said with the population, if there's more medium and your major violators in there, you can't put them on house arrest. You can only put the minimum violations on that. So I understand that, but I'd like to see a breakdown on what we have on the medium security, the high security, versus the ones that are on there for low crimes like check writing, family court. I mean, family court will lock them up in a minute, and then the jail administration has to sit there and he has to take care of them. I know things change in 20 years.
Population breakdown.
Okay, I know things change in the 20 years that since I've been there. But bottom line is we're still ready for 89. Bottom line, we're still overcrowded. And now we're taking it up at a time that we have no extra resources other than going to the people. So I'll be interested to see how this council plans to fund this and how quick y'all come back on it, because we are in violation of minimum standards, and it's just an accident away from a big lawsuit. And I'm as concerned, believe me, I'm as concerned about the inmates than our employees. And so I've been in that situation, Mr. Jones. I understand what you're doing. Thank you, Mr. Templer.
Mr. Shoemaker?
Sure. Just one on something Councilman Jones mentioned. I've spoken with the chief administrative judge, and he is doing everything he can to push the solicitor's office to move these cases faster, scheduling as much court as he can. You know, one issue, and it's worth talking about, our ability to impact it is somewhat minimal, but we should leverage everything we can. You know, from a legal perspective, we're in what's called the 5th Judicial Circuit, and that means Richland and Kershaw are put together. So our solicitor's office is run out of Richland County, and I think we should probably next year, when budget time comes, ask some hard questions of our solicitor as to why, you know, for example, how much, you know, there's a population difference. There's more people in Richland than here, but the percentage difference in population is nothing compared to the percentage difference in spending. So they're spending a lot more money on the Richland side of the border. And so I think, you know, those are questions, you know, the solicitor comes in here and asks us for certain budgetary resources. And I think it's pretty fair for us to maybe start thinking about pegging that to jail populations or things like that, or productivity, which should then decrease jail populations. But I do know that the judges in the 5th Circuit are working really hard to try to keep pushing cases. Because I had that conversation with them probably 2 weeks ago because of this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Shoemaker. Mr. Davis, welcome. Thank you for being here. I have your conclusions and recommendations from the study. Thank you. Probably my main question, and colleagues as well, is preliminary. Can you give us any kind of insight, building new versus expansion? One of the issues I see is that expanding is an option, but what will not be expanded, it says experiencing an abundance of system end-of-life issues, code violations, and requiring everyday maintenance. So I just want to hear from you, I guess, your recommendation.
Thank you.
we met, I guess it's probably been a month ago. I'm sorry. About a month ago with the committee.
Can you bring it up a little bit more?
Usually my mouth is so big, hear me. But I guess it's been about a month ago or so. And one of our biggest concerns is, you're exactly right, a lot of end-of-life systems there. A lot of inadequately sized to accommodate what you've got. But we have started looking at, if an addition is viable, redoing your core spaces, and core spaces being new booking intake, because it's way too small for what you've got now. Even at the 89, it was inadequate. Your kitchen, your laundry, your inmate property storage, all of those core spaces. If we do an addition, our recommendation would be put most of those core services in that addition and beds. So then we started looking at, well, can we repurpose some? So we looked at a possibility of maybe taking your booking and intake, or possibly your current kitchen, taking the kitchen, turning it into booking, taking booking, turning it into laundry, to try to repurpose as much as possible. Okay. Again, the biggest concern that we had all of our engineers came, our structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Your roof needs replacing yesterday. That could be a big expense. The slope on that roof, if you saw our report, the pitch on that roof doesn't get the water to the gutter. It's several foot short. So when it comes off on that slope, it stops. And so you can see in the study where we took pictures of rust areas about a foot before it ever gets off the roof. So it's things like that it's going to cost quite a bit of money.
Okay.
Madam Chair, would you consider that before you consider more beds? Because what we're in violation of is really the amount of inmates we have in there.
Oh, it would be more beds too. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on that. It definitely would be more beds, but those spaces need to be redone because you can't expand them where they are. It's not enough building to expand. But absolutely, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on that. Yes, beds would. I mean, right now, even though you're rated for 89, in order to house 89 inmates, it's got to be like a perfect world, the right type of offenders. You got a housing unit for 24 females and you've only got 10, that's 14 empty beds that you can't put anything else in, co-defendants. So even the National Institute of Corrections says when you're 80% of your rated capacity, you're technically full. So rather than look at 89 beds that you're rated for, you're really operating on 71. So it's 71 in order to properly classify and separate offenders. So with your bed need is great. I mean, you've been as high as 150, 160 since 17. I would like to also talk about the expediting cases through the court system. We look at an average length of stay. And typically in South Carolina, anything from, if it's over 24, 25 days, average length of stay, that kind of raises a flag for us. And we've done the majority of the jails and stuff in South Carolina. That tells us that there's a slowdown in your criminal justice system. You have consistently gone up since 2017, and it's deflected in that report. 2022, you were 22.48 days per inmate average length of stay. That's going to increase greatly with the new bond reform law that just passed. I've already been tracking some counties in South Carolina since that went into play. What that is, if you don't know, if somebody's out on bond and they commit another crime, then they go back to jail without being able to post that bond again. So they're there. So trying to get them out is going to have, I mean, I think the first 30 days we were seeing an increase of like 14 to 15 in the first 30 days in some of the jails that we looked at. So that can't help but make that number go up even higher.
Is there any way, with your experience, and I know Mr. Jones could certainly answer this, and he may not be in favor of this, what would it take to make that facility a direct supervision? And is it still 1 per 56, one officer for?
From a design perspective, your building, as old as it is, we could go in and make it direct supervision. The problem is, it's not making it direct supervision. The problem is hiring the staff. Because when you go from indirect to direct, it's a 35% increase in required staff. And right now.
How many inmates in direct supervision? How many, one officer per how many inmates?
1 per 56.
50, so that hasn't changed.
That's what they allow.
But in indirect supervision is how many officers per inmates?
You do 1 per 64.
Indirect?
Indirect. What the issue is within is officer safety. I mean, do you put one officer in there with 64? A lot of times on a staffing plan, they're going to recommend 2 officers to be in there with that many. So your efficiencies go down a little bit.
I don't think it could be any more dangerous than what we're in right now. And if you monitor correctly and you don't let them all out at one time, you kind of have a good system that you're using. I think direct supervision would be a good way to go.
I'm a huge fan of direct supervision. It's just we are converting direct supervision
Indirect
to
supervision.
indirect now.
Well, that's what my question was, because I just wasn't sure if that would be able to even be done with an indirect supervision. I oversaw the building of that building against my will. I did not like the indirect supervision 25 years ago, and I don't like it now. I like direct better. But anyway, which would be more expensive?
Direct supervision would be a lot more expensive operationally. Construction-wise, probably not. Probably be a little bit lesser, but you're going to pay more than that in the long run for that increase of staff.
Well, I'd also want Mr. Jones's opinion on that too. He is the current jail administrator and current with updated laws and regulations.
So now NIC is really pushing strategic inmate management, which has to do with hybrid jails, direct supervision, linear style jails. But he's absolutely right. It's going to be a 35% increase on staff. I ran Lexington County, and now they just gave their folks across the board 7%. I think it was like 7 last year, and they still can't staff it. They have 50% staffing. So, and Todd also did the study there as well. So,
how many openings do you have right now, Mr. Jones?
I've got 31
openings.
No, I got one opening.
Oh, I got you.
I got one full time.
Good. 31. He watching the jail. Yes.
All the other counties in this state, I'm hearing numbers as high as 140 vacancies.
Had you met Mr. Jones before?
I've known Mr. Jones for
Yeah.
several years. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I couldn't hear you.
I
said you're awesome.
Mr.
That's why you have one opening.
She said you remind her of me.
Yeah. I got to give Siobhan all the credit, though. I'm sorry. She set you up for success. Mr. Davis, how quickly can you get to us? Like, if this council gives Mr. Templer the go-ahead to take the next step, can you just give me a roundabout plan? What would be our next step to take, and then how quickly can we get it done?
We've kind of got a little bit ahead of the game because we've already looked at can you build where you're at if an addition is not selected. So we've looked at that.
Okay.
We could. I would think the next step would be to kind of look at what an addition would look like, give an opinion of probable cost, and then what a total replacement would look like, an opinion of probable cost. Okay. It's going to be much more expensive, as you know, to do a total replacement, but your renovations are going to be astronomical to get that. I mean, you've got so many issues, as you see in that thing. You're going to spend a lot of money. So I would say the next step is to give you both options, both opinion and probable cost, so you can make an educated decision on just how much money you spend.
Okay.
Mr. Jones, we should have been talking to you a year ago. And I apologize for that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Tucker.
So, Mr. Todd, What does that look like in cost? I know we're going to take it, Mr. Templer, out of our capital projects monies, but what we thinking that would cost to get this study that we're talking about? Guesstimate.
Minimal, because I've got all the data pretty much that I need now. Few $1,000s. That's just all I got to do is some of my architectural time.
Okay, per plan?
Yes, ma'am.
Total replacement and
Yes,
expansion, okay. Okay. So we do have that in the capital projects for the detention center?
And I just wanted to know that so because I know we still know, especially if we're going to do expansion, we still need to do those other repairs that they're talking about.
Right.
And I don't want to, squeeze all the juice out of that money and we come up short on that plan if we're expanding. We're building new, it won't matter.
Well, I want to commend this county council for taking this up now. When we're broke.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry,
Yes,
Councilman
Mr.
Johnson.
Tomlinson, go ahead.
And so a complete new rebuild with the current property of 20 so odd acres, if it was a complete rebuild, tear down rebuild, would it be able to be on that 20-acre property? Or will we have to also purchase another property?
No, I understand that we have enough property without more purchase to do a complete rebuild.
Okay, on the current
Correct.
property. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Davis has something to add.
From looking at it from the number of acreage you have, I would say you need to do some, phase one geotech to make sure that the land is buildable, build.
Okay.
I don't see any reason why it's not, but
Okay.
you never know what they find under the soils.
Mr. Tomlinson, did you hear that?
I did, and I know that we have some floodplain areas that's really close to the environmental training park owned by the city, plus the Watery River. However, development, it just looks like where it's currently housed and the property lines with the road being in, it would be a pretty tight squeeze without tearing down the current facility to have complete open access to the 20 acres to be able to build. So it will be strategic in where you put it on that property based upon the limited amount of acres and the jail currently taking up at least a quarter of the acreage. But that was just the question. I appreciate y'all's comments.
Thank you.
In some of our preliminary views, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say some of our just preliminary views, if we were to build new, you would lose a lot of parking during the construction. And then when the current one is tore down, then you would replace that parking.
Okay.
So it may be an inconvenience during the 18 to 24 months that it's being constructed. But
it's going to be an inconvenience trying to house inmates and expand too.
I don't know where you're going to find around you that's got available beds.
Right.
To send them to. That's a problem. And I think Mr. Jones can speak to that.
And very expensive, from what I understand.
If they want them.
If we find a spot, it's gonna be very expensive at the same time. Mr. Cato. I'm sorry, Mr. Jones.
I've got preliminary agreement with Sumter County Sheriff's Office. It was, I think it was, what was it, Siobhan, $72?
Okay. Per day?
Per day, per inmate.
Great, good job.
We were looking at 30 to 40.
So Sumter's pretty much promised, we're working with you on, that's great.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Cato.
Just a thought, if we went with a total new build, would there be anything of the old facility that we could use or with very little funds, maybe fix up to use in addition to make our facility bigger? Does that make sense? What I'm asking, I mean, if it was maybe the medical facility and you had a walkway, if you made the old facility into the medical facility and you had a walkway coming from the new facility to, you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Is there anything that we could do there to expand and make it better, I guess you'd say?
It's possible. You would need to bring it up to the current life safety codes of what they are now. So you don't set yourself up if you've got some inmates that are in a part of the building that don't meet the current life safety and some that they're in a new part. How do you distinguish which one gets the life safety features and which one don't? So you would need to spend that money to bring those up. That could be smoke purge systems, sprinkler systems, anything that affect the life safety. But yes, sir, it can be done.
Well, I look forward to you bringing us the answers back, because what we're doing here is just asking a lot of questions that I think you'll probably be ready to answer when you come back to us the next time.
Yes.
Right. All right. At this time, is there a motion to authorize the administrator to proceed?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Tucker.
I'm gonna change it up just a little bit, so be ready, Ms. Hannah.
Do we need a motion to ask him to proceed? I mean, I'm just asking.
We do.
I think it'll be pretty direct what we want and giving him instructions moving forward. Yes, sir.
Well, you got a motion written down.
Yes, sir. I've scribbled
I
on it.
hope it's what we want. Go ahead.
Oh, well, gee, thanks for having faith in me.
Well, nobody said anything to me about it.
It was at your desk.
Here tonight.
Yeah, sir.
Thank
Like
you.
I said, yeah.
That's what I said. I knew nothing about it before I came in here tonight. Go
All
ahead.
right. I'd like to make a motion, Madam Chair, to authorize the administrator to proceed in preliminary planning for an expansion of the current detention center and a cost for a new building by obtaining engineering and architectural, I can't even say the word, plans. And that funding will come out of the current capital projects of the detention center. That is my motion.
Okay, Mr. Tucker with a motion. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Okay, Mr. Schumake seconds. Any discussion on this motion specifically? Yes, sir.
How much money are you talking about?
Well, that's what I was just asking, a few $1,000s on each, on the expansion and then on the new facility. That's what I was questioning because I wasn't for sure because I hadn't heard that number yet. So that way it wouldn't strip.
We should have had that number.
He said a few thousand.
He said a few
Yes, sir.
thousand.
I can give you, I can say a not
Can you
to,
give us a high range so that we can just put a
I can
limit
say a
on it?
not to exceed 10,000 for both options.
Okay. I would like to amend my motion to put
Okay.
not to exceed 10,000.
And I would
Thank you,
second
Ms.
that.
Starr.
Second the
Thank
amendment? Okay, any discussion on the amendment?
All this is going to come out of reserves, Mr. Tucker.
Out of the capital reserves for detention center, the 600 and something thousand we put aside.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Not new money.
Okay.
Oh, I know all about that money.
All those in favor of the amendment to add a not to exceed dollar amount of $10,000 to the motion indicate by raising your hand. And Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in favor of the amendment.
Okay, the amendment passes. Now to the original motion. Motion to authorize the administrator to proceed in preliminary planning for expansion of the current detention center and a cost for a new building by obtaining engineering and architectural plans not to exceed $10,000. Indicate by raising your hand.
Same 10,000.
The first was an amendment. Now we're back to the original. Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
Madam Chair, I have a question. Is there a timeline on that motion? Or is it just strictly based on?
No, there's no
the
timeline.
$10,000?
Why don't we give them a
Would
time?
it, yeah, would it be
We need
beneficial
to
for us to
vote
get
on
a
it.
timeline since we're currently 161 beds from the proposed difference to what we have currently? And
Okay, Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote on this motion?
I vote in favor of this motion.
Okay, so this motion passes. And would you like to make a motion?
Could we ask?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I could do a not to exceed 120 days. I think within 120 days I can get it.
Okay, Mr. Tomlinson, not to exceed 120 days. Mr. Davis says that's not part of our motion, but that's what he's verbally committing to.
Okay, should we make an amendment to the current
So we
motion
can't
to
amend it
include that,
because
or
we can't amend it because that motion is over, it passed. So we can make a new amendment, or we can make a new motion.
Right.
I'm fine with the verbal agreement.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I will put that language in our contract.
Okay.
That's even
Okay,
better.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, Mr. Davis, it's
done
been a
this-
pleasure working with you. Thank you.
You've
And
done
we
this
look
one or
forward
two
to
times, huh?
continue.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker.
Yeah.
Mr. Davis, thank you. Have you sat down and worked with any of these council members through this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Who have you sat with?
Finance Committee?
He came to the finance committee before this meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't hear. I thought you said, would I? Had I, I'm sorry.
So you were before the finance?
I worked with Mr. Jones and his staff over there getting all the data. And we went back and forth, and then we met with the finance committee and presented what I believe you got a copy of.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Right, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kevin Jones, do you have anything? Okay, thank you for being here tonight, and Ms. Workman, thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody that's moving this forward.
Need you to step.
All right, moving on to item 10 on our agenda, new business. So as I stated in the beginning when we adopted the agenda, ATAX applicants. We aren't going to take any vote tonight, but per our rules, all applicants have to be announced at the meeting prior before, or at a meeting prior before the nomination is given. This is the Tourism Advisory Committee applications, also known as ATAX. There are 2 vacancies. One vacancy needs to be filled by someone from the lodging industry. Yes, sir.
Do we know which ones of these are from which districts? I mean, I noticed none of these have the thing. I just didn't know if we knew what who the districts were represented.
So we don't know right now. Ms. Hannah's working on making this chart in front of you complete and getting all the information, which we will. The statutory requirements are the appointments from a geographical area where the majority of the taxes are derived. So there is no requirement per district. You guys know that I like to have representation in each district, though, so we'll try to
But
meet
it's also
that
just
as we
helpful to
can.
know,
Yeah.
you know, that's fair. And Ms. Hannah, I just want to say thank you, because I know how, I'm sort of shocked when Madam Chair told me how much we didn't have sort of in any one document where all our commissions were and who appointed them. So thank you, and Madam Chair, for putting this together.
Yeah, that's not a problem. So the chart in front of you, every single committee will look like that and have the same exact chart with the same information, just to make things more standardized and uniform. All right, here are the applicants for the Tourism Advisory Committee. Dr. Caitlin Margaret Jones, May. She's from District 6. Mrs. Sissy Griffin Ballou from District 5. Mr. David Williams Jr. from District 3. And that's it. We have 3 applicants. So council members, I just urge you to reach out to them and get to know them. And any one of those 3 can be nominated for the committee at any future meeting.
2 vacancies, Madam Chair?
2 vacancies.
And 3 applicants.
Two
One has to come from lodging.
One has to be in the lodging industry. I don't know. Okay, next item is the Airport Commission. Okay, the Airport Commission, we have 3 vacancies.
Is one of those a District 3 person? Because I noticed that's not listed on this chart.
Flew off.
866
I mean, I'm
years
assuming that's
updated.
what it is.
I'm not sure, Mr. Shoemake. Ms. Hannah, do you know if the appointments under the names on this current list is who appointed them or who should appoint them?
My appointment is my appointment. Chris Anderson was my appointment.
Okay.
It's my appointment.
Yeah, so, but there is no appointment, either way, there's no one appointed by District 3, or there's like from
Correct.
District 3. Okay.
Take that District 4 appointment that's vacant.
Either way, I was just pointing,
What?
Here's the applicants. Mr. Jeffrey Murphy from District 4. Mr. Scott Chambers from District 1. Retired Brigadier General Terry Bullard from District 1. Mr. Ray Den from District 5. Mr. Cheryl Johns. Mr. Miles Bancroft. Mr. Paul White. And Mr. David Williams Jr. from District 3. Right, so same thing. Please reach out to these applicants. Any of them are eligible to be nominated at any future meeting for the Airport Commission. And we heard from Mr. White today. Thank you for being here.
Yes. You have meant a lot, you coming and introducing yourself and speaking to us. I will support you.
And stay for the whole
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah, I suspect whoever nominates you won't have trouble getting that one through.
Next, I just want to go through all, so those are it for the applicants that have come in. We have to announce them at a meeting prior to their nomination. Now I'm just going to go through the vacancies on other boards. So Airport Commission, we just stated there's 3 vacancies. Board of Zoning Appeals.
Can I ask a question on this one?
Yes.
So I don't see Benji Strickland listed here, but I know that he's on the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Is he the one that was coming off?
Correct.
Okay, so Ms. Hannah might have
just-
taken him off.
Yeah, he's the one that now, is that the vacancy listed here? Okay, so that's Benji, yeah, so, yeah, okay.
Okay, 2 vacancies. Clean Community Commission, 1 vacancy. The Kershaw Health District, we have 3 vacancies. No vacancies on the Library Board, the Planning Commission, the Recreation Advisory Commission, and 2 vacancies on the Tourism Advisory Committee, which we read those applicants tonight.
This helps a lot, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Hannah.
You're welcome. And again, Hannah's continuing to improve it and get us all squared away so that we know who is nominated by who and when. Another thing that we are going to start doing is giving a certificate of appreciation to anyone that comes off a board, and also a welcome letter for anyone that is nominated and voted onto a commission or a board. This is going to help Hannah keep track of the dates when they were nominated and when people came off for our historical records. But also we want to acknowledge anyone that serves on a board because it is a public service. Yes, Mr. Jones.
Just some clarification, Madam Chair, because I'm not sure I quite understand. It takes me a little bit longer sometimes. We're going to recognize all the applicants before we...
Once we appoint them, you remember how we used to do? We'd send them a letter, welcome to the board once they're appointed, once they're appointed by
We're not
council.
going to announce their names prior to putting them on the agenda to vote.
Yeah, so like if I was going on the planning and zoning board and you elect, y'all make a motion to appoint me, then she'll send a letter saying, welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission, Mr. Tucker. You were nominated by Councilman Jones.
Say they have to be in the packet prior to, correct?
Right, so this
That
is
doesn't
something
affect that.
separate.
So will we call their names prior to, or we're just, they got to be in the packet prior to, then we'll do it at the next
You
meeting?
keep doing business as usual. Madam Chair is saying there's going to be a letter after we take the vote.
We've always done that.
Well, it got dropped.
Yes.
We've always sent letters.
Okay, so nothing's changing on the process. I'm just going to send people a letter to congratulate them and let them know when the next meeting is.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what Madam Clerk would all doing this for all those years is that whoever nominated that person, she would send a letter to them on their behalf, the council person on their behalf who nominated them.
Okay, we can do that.
I mean, I think that's the best.
It's not being done though, so we're going to start doing it again.
Why did it stop?
I'm not sure. I started in January.
You stopped it in January?
I started in January. I'm not sure.
Ms. Hannah said she started after that, so.
All right, up to item number 11, council briefings. Mr. Tucker, we're going to start with you because we started with Mr. Brazel last time.
Just one quick thing. We spoke with staff, Madam Chair, and the Finance Committee is tentatively going to set up for August the 11th at 3 p.m. for a meeting. This meeting is going to consist of a couple things. One is we want to get with staff and lay out our quarterly dates moving forward, because you remember we made a recommendation back to council that we would get quarterly reports about our finances. So that's going to be a part of that meeting, for the future dates. We also are going to meet with staff and the sheriff about some concerns on his budget to try to answer any questions and address those concerns. We will do a report back to council, and then from there, you can have them on the agenda if you like, but be next best step. We don't know that until after we talk to him, but that is what we have tentatively planned, and if anything changes, we'll let you know. That
Thank you,
concludes my
Mr.
report.
Mr. Shoemaker.
Yes, just a few quick things. I got a chance to go this weekend to Potter's Community Park there in Elgin, and they were doing a school supply giveaway. It was blanketing families, but a number of other, Radiate Church, Legal First Baptist. There's just the South Carolina Foster Agency, just tons of groups out there. And I wish I had the picture to show you, but the line, for those who know what Potter's Park looks like, the line was from the flags all the way back to the end of the park past the picnic shelter. People waited in line for hours, but they had book bags, shoes, school supplies, all kinds of stuff. So it was a really, really wonderful example of the communities and churches coming together and groups, and it was fantastic. So I want to thank the organizers for that, and thanks for inviting me out to help. Tomorrow, that same group, Blanketing Families, at 2 p.m. in Elgin is going to be doing a food giveaway. They do it every little while at the town hall. So if anybody's not doing anything at 2 p.m. tomorrow, they can always use help out there. I've been there a few times, and they give food to families in need. You literally, if you're a family in need or know a family in need, you literally just come to the town hall, get there a little early, 1:45 at Elgin Town Hall. They'll show you where to park. They'll drive you through. You don't even have to leave your car. So Blanketing Families is a wonderful group that operates a lot of good stuff in Elgin. I'm going to be hosting a town hall on August 10th at Blaney Baptist Church. I believe Madam Chair is going to join me. We're going to be talking about whatever the public wants to talk about, but specifically I'm going to give some updates on some of the growth issues, the ordinance we've talked about tonight. Mr. Dabney, I know you mentioned that. So that might be something you could come. It'd be a little more of a back and forth forum, talking about impact fees and some other things at that meeting to get some public input on that. I also got to go, and I know Brand will talk about this, but the South Carolina 7 event that came through the park here was absolutely wonderful. So thanks for the Mullican Law Firm for putting that on. And that's all that I have. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of council. Mr. Borowski, thank you for being here. You sat here all night, and of course you introduced us to Paul Head, and that meant a lot. Also want to thank you for what you folks did for Lauren Webb. That was really nice. It was a class act. And I appreciate your dedication to the Airport Commission. Did you not receive a letter? When I nominated you, did you receive a letter? When was that? A year ago? Okay. Thank you. I made a lot of notes here. It's a lot of writing, but I can't read it. So anyway, that ends my report. Thank you.
Mr. Tomlinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. I would like to extend my apology for not being present in the meeting. I am currently out of town. I really appreciate staff for making this so accessible for me to call in. This has been a seamless, but I missed it being there in person and getting to interact with everyone. As Councilman Shoemaker mentioned, we had a wonderful event on the 15th in Camden, where we kayaked the Watery River and hiked the Chotty Trail and had a community event at the Revolutionary War Center. We really appreciate everybody who came out. Our Parks and Rec staff really played a huge role in that, along with our county staff, to help put that together. It was part of Yakking the River and the SC7 expedition. It was a really wonderful day, besides the liquid sunshine that we experienced during the hike when it was raining sideways. I think that was in the Forrest Gump movie, but it was true on that hike as well. I will be done with the SB7 expedition coming up on the 30th and looking forward to getting back in town. I appreciate staff's input and help really during this process. I've called a few staffers in Kershaw County as I've been gone for 24 days, 25 days now, and they have been most helpful in my absence. So thank you again, and I appreciate everybody, and looking forward to seeing my colleagues again at the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Tomlinson. Mr. Cato.
Just a few things tonight. First of all, I want to remind everybody that on August the 11th, we'll have the Shrine Club Jamboree football matchup at North Central this year. It's where it'll be held, and that'll start at 6 p.m. I know we'll have a meeting between now and then, but all three of our county high school football teams will be participating in this event, so we look forward to seeing everybody out at that. And secondly, with school starting next week, I just want everybody to make sure Monday morning, the kids and the parents and school buses and everything else will be out on the roadways, and the sheriff's offices will be directing traffic. So I just want to urge everybody to take extra care and caution with school starting back and give yourself a little bit of extra time. But other than that, I hope everybody has a great week and great weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Cato. All right. Okay, first I want to, Ryan, if you'll put the slideshow up. I want to show everybody the slideshow from the Civil Air Patrol that was at Woodward Field this past weekend. It was from July 15th to July 23rd. Thank you, Mr. Borowski, for sending these in. And also, I want to extend a thank you to Dale and Gary, who took care of the Civil Air Patrol, made sure the runways were safe, kept an eye on the weather, made sure there was room for all the planes, even got the cadets and the instructors cake and food while they were there. So thank you to the Airport Commission. That just goes above and beyond, and understand it was a really great turnout and a really great flying show. So 24 cadets, 13 Civil Air Patrol planes, 18 cadets did their first solo flight. That really makes me smile. 12 instructors and 4 staff members. So thank you, everybody that was involved in that. Second item, Mr. Tucker briefly touched on it. So we did receive a 2023-2024 proposed salary adjustment from the sheriff for the Kershaw County Sheriff's Office. The Finance Committee is going to meet and go over exactly what that would entail. I want to support a salary adjustment just as much as I do for anyone else in this county. I will not support opening up the budget, though, so I look forward to hearing what the Finance Committee's recommendation is, but I just wanted to let everybody know that that request came in, and it will involve opening the budget, reopening the budget, and there's a lot of effects of that. So please get back to us as soon as possible, Mr. Tucker, with y'all's recommendations. Thank you for reminding everybody about the quarterly budget updates.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, a reminder for admin as well. I have been gone for a while, so I'm going to get back on my town hall rotation. The next one will be Thursday, August 24th at 6 p.m., and it will be in the Liberty Hill area. So I will have more details on that. I don't have any kind of planned theme or proposed topic. I just want to meet in a different area of the county that I haven't been yet and talk to people. In the community, I want to give a shout out to Mr. Tim Kennedy. So he is working very hard and meeting with several levels of legislator all the way to our U.S. Congress on getting a veterans clinic here in Kershaw County so that our veterans do not have to drive all the way to Sumter or drive all the way to Columbia for simple checkups or blood draws or small things that they might need. So we've been working on that, and I just want to thank him for his time and his efforts. Congratulations to Kirkland Community Center for their summer camps. Miss Minnie Smith They just had their final camp this week. It ended, and I hear it was a huge success. They've been working with the Alpha Center for the programs and the topics there, and I'm very, very proud of them. So good job, Miss Minnie. Good job to everybody that put that together for that community. From Mayor Emmons, the town of Elgin send their appreciation for the funding of the community center in Elgin. So they are finally ready to approve their final plans. They're very grateful for that. Also very great for the council's efforts and the state legislators' efforts for getting Elgin out of the Central Midlands cog. From Mayor Holly, the Bethune Community Center will host a town hall on Tuesday, August 1st at 6:30 p.m. And she wanted me to put that out. And that's all I have for chair report. Mr. Templer, administration.
Yes, ma'am. Just two things operationally. Just with the rain event we had the other day, where Public Works is working through over 20 roads with washouts of different levels. So if y'all get anything, certainly forward it to staff. We'll work on them. Some are more severe than others, but just wanted to let everybody know we are aware of them and we're getting to them as quick as we can. Also, something else that is a little concerning to me is Republic Waste, who we haul to in Lee County, and I think it's Screaming Eagle, is they take our municipal solid waste, our household garbage. They are going to be permanently closing on Saturdays. Waste Management is also considering this. So if this happens, this is going to really impact our ability to run our convenience centers as we currently do. So we'll stand by on that. So the Republic is a done deal. Waste Management is looking at and probably will because of the cost effectiveness or lack thereof. So we're scenarioing some things, some alternative schedules and hours, so I will certainly keep y'all abreast of that. And but just wanted to put that on your radar.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing we can do about it. And that is all.
I need to ask you a question.
Sure.
I had asked for two things to be brought back up at this county council. One was the gentleman who gave the presentation on the Veterans Park, that we were supposed to have an update on that tonight.
Yeah.
And also personnel issue that we should be having an executive session on.
Yes, both of those are ready. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But the Veterans Park, the park, that wouldn't be an executive session, would it?
No, Mr. DeBose is going to give us that in the legal briefing.
Okay, good, thank you.
Mr. Templer, one question about the washouts. Who do citizens need to call?
They could call Public Works or
Okay.
just.
Or they can call us,
yes,
of course,
or
but
administration.
Public Works, okay.
But we're working through it pretty quickly, but it's just going to take a little time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, legal briefing.
Madam Chair, as you referenced earlier, and I'm basically giving this briefing because I've been the point of contact with Mr. Uten, who presented the what he titled Project Picnic regarding those shelters for the armed service branches at Veterans Park. I met with staff to review the permitting considerations and just areas where planning staff and engineering needed more information, summarized that information and sent it to Mr. Uten in a letter, and also called him on the phone to talk about some of the higher level issues. I won't even call them issues, just steps that need to be taken for the project to see fruition. Mr. Uten, in that letter, was invited to contact Mr. Adams Ruskowski to set up a meeting where staff members can gain the information they need from Mr. Uten to steer them in the right direction, and also just present him with forms and options to consider in the project. Again, staff wants to give him all the information he needs to come back with a successful proposal to council. So okay. I do not know if Mr. Uten has reached out to staff, but I did speak to him late last week and provided him that information.
Okay. Thank you for doing that, and thank you for Contacting him. Yes, Mr.
I
Pito.
did speak with Mr. Uten this evening, and he has not received the letter yet.
Okay.
So
I thought it had been sent to him. I will double check that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeBose.
Would you let us know if you sent it out?
Will do. Yes.
Thank you.
So it sounds like there are some legalities we have to get taken care of, but if those items can be met, then we can move to the planning phase of the
Correct.
project. Okay.
The projects, the principal concern are just the permitting requirements because it is in a FEMA floodway, not even a flood zone, an actual floodway. FEMA won't allow you to have, quote, permanent structures.
Okay.
But,
Well, we have them.
well, there may be.
We put them there.
Yeah, well, the definition of permanence for FEMA's maybe not what the common usage of that term would be. But yeah, that's one of the primary concerns is that aspect.
Thank you.
That's interesting.
Great. No future agenda items to discuss up to number 15, executive session. I do need to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Session, take any votes,
The administrator.
We have the deputy administrator here.
And deputy administrator.
into executive session with the administrator and deputy administrator. This would be to discuss a personnel matter, but
Yes. Is there a second?
Sounds like y'all got it all together.
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Tucker. All right, and all those in favor of going into executive session indicate by raising your hand. Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in favor, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Why would you not want the attorney in there?
The attorney is welcome to be there. We just don't need him. Okay, we're in
Stay where you
executive
are in case
session.
I ask where you come in.
Vote was unanimous, right? Okay. Jimmy, just twist this B up over there. Yes, sir. Okay, got it. I'll do that. Thank you, too. Good to see you. Yes, sir.
Back on. Thank
There we
you. And do we have Mr. Tomlinson? Okay.
Yes, I'm here, Madam Chair.
There we go.
Okay, great. Is there a motion to come out of
I make the
executive
motion, Madam
session?
Chair, to come out of executive session.
Okay, Mr. Tucker makes the motion. Mr. Cato makes the motion. Just for the record, executive session was held on a personnel matter, and no vote will be taken, no action will be taken. All right,
Madam Chair.
all those in favor of exiting executive session indicate by raising your hand. Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
In favor.
Okay, and we are out of executive session. We are now to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight?
Please, Madam Chair, can we adjourn?
Okay, Mr. Tucker makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Cato seconds. All those in favor of adjourning indicate by raising your hand. Mr. Tomlinson, how do you vote?
I vote in favor of adjourning.
Okay, and this motion passes. This meeting is adjourned.
Hey, Ken,